A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life.
So it's currently doing the intro now, so I'll get ready to
just waiting.
Do that.
It's lights out and away we go. It's a great start from Sebastian Vettel. We come up the inside. The they run, but the Red Bull Racing man has got through. The champions done the job. They're all gone. Tander's off. McLaughlin's off. Make room. Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. There's another 7-time champ. Jimmy Johnson wins his 7th NASCAR Sprint Cup championship.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Round 5 of the AMS Oz Super Series, coming to you from Hidden Valley and brought to you by Short Shift Podcast. My name's Stairs, and joining me in the commentary box tonight will be Nether. Nether, how are you?
Very well, Stairs, and how's yourself?
I'm pretty good. Well, the question of today is Brenton Hobson or Lewis Wedding, because we're in the final stages of our practice session, and Hobson is currently leading the times.
He is currently leading the standings at the moment. He's just lengthened his gap over Lewis Wedding to 0.3 of a second. It was under 1/10 of a second probably about 5 minutes ago. And the most important thing is he needs to stay ahead, because as much as he's got a points lead of 41 points over Will Devonish at the moment, Lewis Wedding very much the man in form, having won both the last 2 races at Monza.
Exactly right, which does give us an opportunity, as you mentioned that. We've got someone just spinning off down there in the first sector. It does give us a chance to look at the championship standings as they are right now. So the top 10 as it stands, as you said, Brenton Hobson with a massive lead over Will Devonish there, 69 points to 110. Thomas on 57. Heath Dixon unfortunately unable to make most Thursday nights now, so he's going to miss quite a few races. He's down there in 4th place. Brock Harvey is in 5th. Kingshot 49. Schultz 47. Matt Williams, interesting thing about Matt Williams, he is now taken over from Brock Harvey as the CEO, if you like, of AMS Oz.
Self-proclaimed CEO.
Which is a role that he said to me he is enjoying quite a lot. Johnny down there on 42 points, and Jake Maloney on 40.
We actually had a tie for the 10th place at the moment with Jake Maloney and Lewis Wedding both on 40 points, but we haven't seen Jake Maloney since his back-to-back victories in both Goiânia races in round 3.
Yes, and the interesting thing about this week is that they're trialling a 2-race system. They now have driver rankings based on their previous results. Drivers will be ranked either Pro A, B, or AM. And the reason that's been introduced is so that they can have 2 servers running simultaneously, because the guys were running into issues with server limitations in previous weeks. So that means that we have 2 races going concurrently. We're obviously covering the Pro A and B series. But the interesting thing there is that although there are some drivers, Wedding included, who haven't done enough races yet to get a rating, because they are very good and well-respected iRacers, they get a free pass up into this. And thankfully for us, it means that we've got a race on our hands, because Wedding was the #1 guy last week, and he beat Hobson last fortnight in Monza in round 4. And that means that Brenton Hobson's got something to think about to get victory today.
He does have something to think about. He's had a couple of good results in the last few weeks, Brenton Hobson, but he has had the gauntlet thrown down to him by Jake Maloney in Goiânia, with winning both races, and Lewis Wedding winning both races last time out at Monza. Up till then, he pretty much had it all of his own way. These guys hopefully will present him with a good challenge over the remaining rounds. We've got some time to go. It's a long way to go, we should add, in terms of the number of circuits these guys are going to be racing at. Hopefully it gives us a lot of action over the coming weeks and months.
Certainly do, hope so. Now, the format for today's race is very similar to the previous rounds that we've had in the AMS Australia Super Series. That is going to be 2 races, preceded each by 2 15-minute qualifying sessions with a limited number of laps per driver. The races themselves will be 20 laps per race, a distance of 57.4 kilometres for each race. So plenty of racing action up ahead for us tonight.
Yeah, so 20 laps sprints, 220-lap sprints around this 2.86 kilometre layout. It's up in the top end, as we say, rattle in the top end in Darwin. Here at Hidden Valley Raceway, the main straight into turn 1 is probably the prime passing opportunity. If you get a good exit out of that last turn, all the way down the 1.1 kilometre long front straight, and even sometimes 3 and 4 wide into turn 1. We're expecting to see a bit of action there at the start of the race, and that prime passing opportunity into turn 1.
Absolutely. The server currently with 15 drivers in it, so that'll be something that the runners will be probably a little bit more calm about, given the immense numbers that we've had in previous weeks, where we saw in Monza we didn't even get to the first corner before there was an accident. So they'll be hoping for a bit of cleaner action, as we've just had the practice server has finished, and we're rolling up into qualifying very shortly indeed.
And in terms of the numbers in this server, as you're saying before, Stairs, we have about 15 guys in this server at the moment, and in the Pro Am server, we're running at about somewhere between 8 and 10 guys battling over on that concurrently, as we mentioned before. That's
right, and we've got Bagsy in the pit lane who will be keeping us abreast of both results, action that happens in this race and indeed in the AMS Oz AM class race, as Corey Ott seems to be the first person to take to the track. So he is absolutely eager right now to get himself first on track and find himself some clear space to set a lap time.
Yep, so if you remember the last time out that these guys raced in Symmons Plains, which was round number 1, track space was at an absolute premium. So this is another circuit that's very, very similar. It's a little bit longer lap.
And a bit less traffic as well.
And a bit less traffic this time, because obviously the 2 servers being split.
That's right. Well, following him is Schultz, Tara, Hobson, Sanford, and so far those are the 5 guys on track. Looks like everyone else has just remained in the pits. Well, we've got a couple more guys coming out. Baker's exiting the pits, and Cracker. So just probably doing a better job this time than they did last week in the Super V8 series, the Supercars race at Symmons Plains, doing a little bit better job to space themselves out. And some of them may be learning from the mistakes of last week, where they all sort of used up their allotted laps too quickly, and in the end they didn't actually have any time. They had plenty of time left, but they didn't have any laps left, and so we had this massive lull, 5-minute lull at the end of the qualifying session.
We've only got about 4 or 5 guys left in the pit lane at the moment, so they'll probably just sit there. Some of them are starting to come around onto the main straight now to start their first flying laps. So if you're not on track now, you wouldn't want to get out and try and ruin anybody else's lap. The 4 guys sat up in the pits at the minute: Lewis Wedding, Will Devonish, Dwayne Davies, and Matt Williams, just waiting to see what some of these guys out on the track can produce to begin with.
Yep, we're just looking at Corey Ott in the M&M car at this stage. He did very well on the weekend in the GT3 race, coming through from the back of the field to finish 3rd in the end, but he was running 2nd before a late pit stop. So he'll be the first man to set a lap time in this session.
And we're watching some of the top speeds going into turn 1. You're getting nearly up to 260 kilometres an hour, most of the competitors. It is a very, very long front straight. As we've seen with these cars before as well, Stairs, that the slipstream doesn't tend to be very powerful in the Super Series. It's not like the V8s or the Formula 3 series, where you can get a decent tow. These cars don't produce much of a hole in the air for the trailing car to make a move. So you really have got to get a good exit out of turn number 14, the 14th and final corner on this circuit, to have a go at the end of the front straight.
Exactly right. Ott has sent the benchmark so far, but it's a 106.8. That won't be, it's pretty good, but probably won't be good enough for pole position, but a decent banker lap.
Slower speed to begin with. As you said, it's a banker lap. Just to lay something down, the top time that we saw in the practice session was from Brenton Hobson with a 106.097. So
And speaking of Brenton Hobson, he has surpassed Ott's time with a 106.478, so that's a pretty decent lap to start off his qualifying session. And he's looking to improve again. He's half a tenth up in the first sector.
So getting down to business very, very early, Brenton Hobson, and he needs that. He wants to maintain his good finishing record at the very front of the field. I think the worst result that he has had in all the races so far is a 6th place. He's had 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a 3rd, a 5th, a 6th, and he did have a DNF at Monza in race 2. So his
worst finish
was remarkable.
Correct. His worst finish was, of course, 6th, but the DNF, of course, costing him quite dearly. He was in the lead of the race at the time, although having said that, he had a drive-through penalty for a jump start. But Tara unaware of that, and he won't like me mentioning this, but rear-ended him, and Hobson improves by a marginal amount.
Yeah, very, very, very minor amount there, just 7 thousandths of a second improvement over his previous lap time. He's looking good through the first 2 sectors, but he did drop away in the last sector quite substantially.
Certainly did. We're just seeing, well, Corey Ott's done a good final sector on his previous lap, but it wasn't enough to improve. So we're just looking to the timing screens. Wedding hasn't taken to the track yet, so he'll be one we watch with interest to see as Hobson goes deep. I don't know that he's pushing on this lap. I think it may well just be a...
Actually, Wedding's on track at the moment, Stairs. He's just coming up to the line, and he's actually just going into turn 1 right now, so he's on his first flying lap.
Well, we'll follow that with interest, and this car's going off. Hopefully Devonish there stays out of the way, and indeed he does, because Wedding needs a clean lap.
The only guys not to set a time so far, Matt Williams and Brock Harvey, are currently in the pits. They haven't turned a lap in anger yet, and Devonish actually just went off the road. He has actually on an out lap, so he's yet to set a time as well. So a couple of guys have already returned to the pits just to gather their thoughts and get themselves ready for the next runs.
Exactly right. So we watch Wedding come into this particularly technical part of the circuit. Lots of undulation, change, camber, change, and a hell of a lot of corners. 10, 11, 12, 13 and 14, all in very quick succession. And he exits the final corner to come onto the main straight. This looks like he's not taken all the road on the exit there, so...
You're just watching Jamie Snow ahead of him. Jamie Snow looks like he's on a very, very quick lap at the moment as well.
Oh, Wedding has gone top with that lap. Sorry to cut across you there. He has found a 10th. And
he did find a lot of time, didn't he?
On Hobson, and one would say that that's probably not all he's... I don't think he's shown his full hand just yet. We'll go
Jamie Snow was just ahead of him. Jamie Snow was just ahead of him on the track as well, and he was lighting up the timing screens before Wedding crossed the line, slotted nicely into second, but then Lewis Wedding jumped to the top and with a 10th clear of Hobson, so still half the session to go.
And he's gone purple again. We're going to go and look at what may well be an improvement on his previous lap. As he enters very short lap. We've missed the first 2/3 of it already, but here he comes where we picked him up on the previous lap, and he's found nearly 10th and a half, 10th and 3/4, and this looks like a very good lap, and if he gets a cleaner exit off the final corner, which he did, then this is looking like he'll improve even more than a 10th and a half as he comes across the line. And indeed, he's found nearly 3/10, so we're inching very close to the 105 mark, and Hobson all of a sudden has got a fair bit of work to do.
Yeah, that's the quickest lap of this race weekend, as we like to call it, on the server. He's actually surpassed Hobson's practice time by only 26/100ths of a second, so he holds the top fastest time for the race weekend of a 106.071.
He does, and goes back to the pits now to have a little bit of a think about what he might do in his second run. And we look to the timing screens to see who else is on track. Well, no one's setting purple times at the moment. Hobson is on a green lap. It's personal best by the looks of it. But it's not anywhere near close enough on the evidence of what we've seen on the timing screens to surpass Wedding's time.
Not at the moment. The last 2 runners who are yet to set a time are Matt Williams and Johnny. They're on track at the moment. Matt Williams just going through turn number 1. and Johnny's just coming up through turn number 5 up to the top, the northernmost part of the circuit, turn 6, which is a 180-degree left-hander.
Hobson did improve on that lap, but not enough, but he's closed that gap to just under a tenth and a half to Lewis Wedding. So the 106.2. And he's up on this lap on his PB, but he looks like he might have backed out of it, and indeed he has. So Hobson gone back to the pits now as well. His Wedding's back on track. So looking like a good old-fashioned shootout. Snow's not too far away, just 0.4 of a second.
John Kirkham jumps up into 8th place with his first flying lap. He's 7.5 tenths off the pace.
So we've got the big 4, Wedding from Hobson, Snow in 3rd place, Coriot in 4th. Dwayne Davies doing pretty well up there in 5th place. Greg Tarr in 6th.
Matt Williams has just set his first time as well. So we've had all the runners in the field have at least posted some time or another. And now it's all a matter of trying to find improvements.
Exactly right. Wedding's on his out lap, so this is the exit of the final corner to start his next lap. Looks like he's got a decent gap, but the car ahead of him on track is Jamie Snow, so I don't imagine that he will have any problems with traffic, because Snow is reasonably quick. And we're going to go on board with Lewis Wedding here to take you around a lap of Hidden Valley. Oh, and he's a little bit deep into there. He's actually caught up to Hobson on track. Doesn't look like... well, Hobson has ceded the track position to him, but looks like Wedding may have just been a little bit distracted going into there. But we wait for the split time to see whether he is on a good lap.
No, split time's well down on what it should be. So
but very consistent. I mean, two tenths down, and that's a bad lap by his standards. So just goes to show how consistent he is. And that really was what won him the races. The last 2 Thursday nights he's dominated. Monza was a masterclass in... you know, he didn't maybe have the outright pace in Monza, but he had the consistency, and that netted him the win in both of those races when others were falling off the track. Oh, is he? I've just given him the curse. I was about saying he's consistent. He may have been planning to go exit the pits there, but he found time in that final sector there. That was a 20.8 in that final sector, and he was he was down on his best lap by under 2 tenths when he crossed the line there, and the gap was more than that at the second sector mark. So he's probably got more time in him, which will be scary for everyone else.
Yes,
very consistent. But yes, as I was just to finish my point there, he was also very consistent in Symmons Plains last week, where Hobson didn't get the best start, got stuck in traffic, and was never able to close that gap, and he ended up sort of managing that 10-second lead for the entirety of the race, which was a very good job by him.
He was the class of the field, you're right, in the Supercars race last Thursday at Symmons Plains, and back in Monza he was very, very good at making sure he stayed clear of all the carnage that was going on around him in both races, kept his nose clean, and that's what presents you consistency. If you've got clean air to run in and you can battle with those cars ahead without getting caught up in all the trouble.
We're looking at Will Devonish at the moment. He's in 16th place, and that's last currently, but he is on a PB lap, going to improve at this rate by some 3.5 tenths of a second, which, just looking at the timing screens, will net him quite a few positions. But he's the current second place man in the championship, which is obviously a testament to his consistency, his ability to finish and net those points, and he's lost it all in the second sector. So not ideal, but he definitely has the pace in him to improve.
He does, and it's interesting to note that the whole entire field of 16 drivers only separated this stage by 1.6 seconds, which is a very, very close spread for Spec Series, but we assume that Devonish will make an improvement here, and he does, but not by very much. So the field's still covered by 1.6 seconds.
He's found one position there. So we're going to see who else is on track. Got Johnny down there in 8th place, so what can he do? He's in the first sector and he's not up on his PB. He's got about a 10th or so to make up on his PB, and he's not going to do it there. He's just gone onto the grass. So we'll move on. We'll move on to see Cracker exiting the final corner in 13th place. What can he do in the blue car there? The number 33. 32 on the door, 33 on the windscreen, and he does not improve.
So it's a bit of a confused car there. It has two different numbers. It doesn't know if it's a 32 or a 33.
That's exactly right. Well, here's Coriot. He's got traffic ahead of him, so he'll be hoping that jumps out of the way. In fact, that is Cracker, I think, and sliding his way out of the final corner. I'm not really sure if the Porsche suit Ott's driving style. He is a very, very fast driver, but I think the GT3s and the Formula 3s are probably his best chance for victories in this series.
Yeah, he did have a good run in the GT3 on Sunday night, and if not for a drive-through penalty, I believe, and having to do a splash and dash toward the end, he would have been right up there towards the end of the race. But you're right. Oh, is he?
Oh, goodness.
Watching Coriot, he's gone right across the grass. So I think that lap is going to... He was a 10th up on his PB.
He won't be anymore.
But he won't be anymore. So
yep. So I imagine
that's probably his session done too, because only a minute remaining.
Yeah, he's not going to get back around. Tara's doing well there, up in 4th place. So he has surpassed Ott, and that's not something that Ott will be particularly pleased about.
No, starting from the 3rd row as it stands, Coriot. Lewis Wedding still the man to catch. He's actually in the pits at the minute, and so too is Hobson. So I think they've put the queue in the rack and probably happy to be starting from the front row. But the only man who can probably upset that is Jamie Snow, who broke his hoodoo on Sunday night by winning the GT3 race.
He certainly did.
He came into the last section at the moment, so having a chance to go for another flying lap.
And we're hearing that there are technical difficulties occurring on the Pro-Am server, so chances are that by the time that they get that underway, or by the time we have a result for the first race, we'll be underway with our second race by the sounds of it.
Yeah, we're doing our best.
Snow has crossed the line. Sorry to cut across you there, with about 3 seconds left in the session, so he has one more chance to see if he can leapfrog Hobson or Wedding.
Timing to perfection, isn't it?
He's backed out of it. He's backed out of it. So either he didn't have enough fuel or he stuffed up the first corner. But that is time in that qualifying session. So the only man left on track,
Will Devonish.
Will Devonish.
And
so
Cracker's on track as well, but I think he's crossed the line, so he won't be able to set another time. But so just is Will Devonish the only man who can make an improvement.
And it doesn't look like he's going to. He's 4 tenths down on his PB, and this is just an in-lap by the sounds of it.
And we've actually lost one person out of the server at the moment as well. I think we may have lost Lee Sanford. Oh no, Lee Sanford's moved up. I do apologise. We've lost somebody from the server. We've had 16 a little while ago. We're now down to 15. We've got a report coming in from our pit lane reporter Bagsy that they're delaying the race on the Pro-Am server because of the issues that they're having. So, as you alluded to before, Stairs, we're probably going to have this race well and truly completed or very close to complete before the other one even gets underway.
Well, that's right, and well, hopefully they can get that all sorted. But in the meantime, we've got a race to call, and that's going to be getting underway very, very shortly indeed.
We've just noticed it's ticking over here into a warm-up session. I'm not sure if this is a new addition, but normally we just have a formation lap.
Often it just skips past this bit, but
I think they just told me to skip past it.
They may well be. Some of the guys may well be helping the Pro-Am guys get their server sorted before we get racing here. That may possibly be a reason for the delay.
Yeah. Well, we got agonisingly close to seeing a 1 minute 5 point something. We didn't quite get there, so we've still got another qualifying session after this 20 lap, this first 20 lap sprint race, and let's pray that we see someone magically get under that 1:06 second barrier and into the fives.
Well, yes, it will be difficult because they don't get new tyres during the race. It's a flag to flag sprint, and of course they start with 20 laps worth of fuel on board. But nonetheless, we'll see if it's possible. Obviously, the best opportunity to do a 1:05 or a sub 1:06 would have been just then. But obviously, the race does present another opportunity with the track all the time rubbering in.
It will, and we're not quite 100% sure what the current level of grip is on the track surface at the moment, if we take a look, it is actually quite a heavy use. It's probably not the maximum sort of grip that we can expect, but it'll get better and better as the race wears on, and then they'll have the qualifying session at the end of first race for race 2, and that'll probably be where we might get close.
That's right. Well, in this lull in proceedings before the race gets started, it's a poignant moment to reflect on the death of Darrell Eastlake, who was, to anyone who grew up in the watching motorsport in Australia in the last couple of decades, he was the voice of Australian motorsport. So it's very sad to hear of his passing, and thoughts are with his family, of course.
Absolutely. 75 is much too young to be losing somebody of his stature in sports commentating in general. He did suffer, unfortunately, from Alzheimer's, which is a terrible disease for the last several years, and did spend a lot of that time in a nursing home. I'm sure his family will be suffering some pain right now, and we do send our condolences. And we all know that he's gone to a much better place, and he will surely be missed.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully, in his honour, we can have a very good race, commentators included, and we wait with bated breath for the beginning of this race, which is taking still a little bit of time.
Now, we've just seen a little bit of getting an update here from our pit reporter, Bagsy. A note has come through saying that quality is going to be run again, as Brock Harvey's had to disappear off to help out fix the Pro-Am server, which is the other, it's not the Pro-Am server, the Pro-Am server, the other one that is running alongside the server, the Pro-AB server here tonight, which is a bit unfortunate. We're just going to have to... maybe we might get another chance to get another look at that sub 106 lap, but we'll see. We're just waiting to hear how things are going over there.
Yes, one would think that
they
wouldn't they just use the order from the qualifying session just gone and get the server to manually set that order. That's what I would have thought would be the go, rather than going through another 15 minutes of qualifying.
Well, we've got Matt Williams controlling one of the servers, and we've got Brock Harvey looking at after one of the other servers. I think it's actually the way it is Brock's racing here in the Pro AB class, but he's actually hosting the Pro AM server. So it's a little bit of a flip. But
yes, because they have to jump into the Pro AB server to ask him when if they have any technical issues to help them out, and he's busy trying to get a good result in here.
Well, here we go. We've just flipped into a 15-minute session, and all the times look like they've been potentially reset here.
So what we've just witnessed...
Maybe it is correct.
Well, our audience will, of course, bear with us while we get ready for another qualifying session, because what we've just had is a glorified 15-minute practice session by the looks of it. So
everybody's shown their hand, haven't they?
Wedding has it all to do. Everyone has shown their hand, and I wouldn't put it past a 105 being very possible now. I think that's going to be the focus of the next 15 minutes, is whether either Hobson or Wedding can dip into those 105s, because the others were perhaps just a little bit too far off to do anything about it. Law of diminishing returns with a smaller circuit like this is that, those sort of 3 or 4 or 5 tenths that they were back, just a little bit harder to find. But it looks like Harvey's the first man on track.
Well, you want to be the first man on track, having lost valuable time in that qualifying session, or the qualifying session, which doesn't mean anything right now. To get out there and set some laps. We've actually got our telemetry coming through from the Pro-Am server at the moment, so they're just in a practice session, just making sure that everything is going according to plan before they jump into qualifying. So it looks like we will be running the two servers side by side on the same time, or very, very close together for both races tonight.
That's right. Well, it is, as you mentioned, it is much fairer for Harvey now, because he does get a chance to have a full qualifying session, and I didn't actually remember where he finished in the previous qualifying session, but it's all null and void, so it doesn't really matter anymore.
I think he may have been the one that dropped out because toward the end of the session we had,
yes, we have
16,
now,
then we
yeah.
went to 15.
Yeah,
and
he was 13th apparently. Sorry to cut across you there.
What I've noticed in the outlaps that we've just seen for the restart of qualifying is that there's a number of drivers that are very, very close together on track as well. So before we saw that they all
Cracker's just pulled away to let Harvey go through on his fast lap.
Yeah, we just saw the last attempt at qualifying that everybody sort of gave each other a bit of room and just sort of casually wandered out onto track, but they all come out in one big, great gaggle.
They've all run out of patience now. That's what's happened. They've, as you said, they've shown their hand, and now that everyone knows what Wedding can do, because that wasn't something that he wasn't showing in practice. Gives people like Devonish a chance to get a bit further up the field, because we saw he didn't actually nail a lap time, and we saw from his sectors that he did have it in hand. So it just gives everyone that second chance, and some people might not have been wanting that second chance because they might have netted a result that was a little bit higher than they were expecting.
And Lewis Wedding, I think, is probably playing possum now that he was on top of the standings after the qualifying. Harvey just a bit of a wiggle on the exit there. But
that'll
I think
cost him all down this straight. Not only does that cost him on this lap, it costs him on the start of his next lap. So that's not ideal. 107.7.
It's a respectable 7.7. It's obviously will be his banker lap. He'll still have some time to go and set another lap. But as you rightly pointed out, Stairs, if you make a mistake at the top of that main straight, it hurts you all the way to the very bottom.
That's right. Tara's just set a 6.5. Sorry, 6.9, and Hobson has surpassed that with a 6.5. And Lewis Wedding is now on track on his out lap.
Schultz popping up into third there as well. A number of guys coming in with very, very quick times at the moment. As we look at our timing, we can tell that guys are on a hot lap because they have a trail of flames after them, and it means that they're on fire.
That's right. It goes. The guy goes purple or green, and it lets them know. And Hobson is the man on fire at the moment.
Actually, Corey Ott's just jumped to the top. He's done a 6.3.
That's pretty good. That's very quicker than he managed in the previous session. So
it was. He was much further down, and Hobson's already bettering that, bettering his PB. And
got a yellow flag on the exit of the final corner there. It looks like Harvey in the wall. We're going to go on board with Wedding as he makes his bid for a 105 and a second pole position out of a possible 3 tonight.
Just watching Hobson. Hobson's coming to the line. He goes to the top now.
Oh,
with
Wedding stuffed it. Or actually, maybe he hasn't. I think he's going for a late apex there. It looked like he'd gone deep. We'll wait to see the sector time, but I thought he'd stuffed it. But he's a better racing driver than I am. So we look for the sector times. He's down by half a tenth, so maybe it wasn't ideal.
Hobson pressing on here in currently on provisional pole, so 8,800th up on his last lap. So even though the pole sitter from the previous session, Lewis Wedding's doing the best he can to get back to the front. Hobson's pressing on here.
I think Wedding's over driving it on this particular lap. He's down about a tenth and a half on Hobson, so and he does have traffic ahead, so he'll want to hope that that guy isn't. I think it might be Cracker.
It is Cracker.
He'll be hoping that he either gets out the way or isn't on a hot lap. So Wedding surprisingly has pulled back a fair bit of time in that final sector. So even though it was a messy lap from himself, he was half a tenth off his best. As we've got
Hobson
Dwayne Davies. Yeah, Hobson. Yeah, no, Hobson's improving. Just shaving time off his. And here we go, PB first sector for Lewis Wedding, and fortunately for him, Cracker spins in front of him as we enter the hairpin. And I don't know if that's actually the way he squares off the corner there. I'm not sure if that's intentional or whether he's just pushing a little bit too hard.
I think he's probably pushing a little bit. There was a little bit of a smoke show through that left-hander at turn 6. Unfortunately for him, Cracker also spun to the right side of the track for him.
Tell you what didn't like it.
He's pushing it hard.
The clock didn't like it because he's 2 tenths down on his PB and straight into the wall. He's frustrated. He's frustrated because he knows that the 105 is possible, and I think he's just pushing it a little bit too hard. He's gone straight back out onto the track.
Smoke show coming out of the pit box as well, so or out of his pit garage. So you're right. I think the frustration is there. Here comes Hobson down the pit straight as well. So Wedding just coming back out in front of Hobson. Hobson not improving on that lap, but there's still plenty of time for Wedding to go out there and reclaim the pole that was his. But I think you're right, Steve. I think he's just pushing it a little too much. He wants that pole. He wants to lead the field away like he's done in the last couple of races, but he's not going to get it by pushing at the rate that he is. The tyres don't agree with him, and of course the clock doesn't agree with him.
Jamie Snow is just about to cross the line to set his first representative lap, and 7th place is not what he would have been aiming for. He'd be up sort of hoping for a top 4 or 5. Quali has got underway in the AM class, we've heard. They've fixed their issues, so that'll be quite a relief to Brock Harvey, I would expect.
It is. And there's only one guy who has not set a time in this server at the moment, and it's Dwayne Davies, and he's just on his way up to the Sector 2 split at the moment. So then we'll have all of our runners will have set a time. And the spread at the moment between all the runners that have set a time is 1.7 seconds from first to last, but that's a little bit larger than what it was on the session that we just lost out.
Snow is, I was about to say he's up by 2/10, and I hadn't even got the sentence out and he was sideways, so he's pulled out of that lap. So he's got more time in him. He definitely does. There's no two ways about that. But he's just going to reset himself. Hope that the tyres come back to him a little bit, because they don't last very long if you punish them. And he's going to try and improve. But there's a lot of traffic at the pit exit that he's going to try and avoid there. And, well, who else is on track? Let's have a look. It's Brenton Hobson, the man who's made the best of this second qualifying session so far. And he's on track, having set a 106.2, about the same as what he did in the first qualifying session. And it's up to Wedding to see whether he can surpass that time again.
So we're looking through the field just to see who is currently set up in the pits, and there's 3 guys currently in the pits at the minute. Corey Ott, Schultz is in the pits. We've also got Johnny in the pits, and also now Lee Sanford's returned to the pits as well. So a couple of guys just biding their time and waiting for the next opportunity to come out onto track. As our pit reporter pointed out, qualifying underway in the Pro-Am server as well. Only a handful of laps have been set. Some of the times not as quick as what the times are here, but it's very early in that session.
Wenning's on a PB. Oh, and he's gone deep at the hairpin again. That's where he's losing all his time. He was up by about half a tenth on his best, and he was very, actually I think it was more than that, and he was only off Hobson's first sector by half a tenth. But it's very, very tight. We're talking about tenths of seconds here, and we know that Wedding's got a very strong final sector.
Yeah, it's a difference between starting on the grippier side of the grid or the dirty side of the grid as to what Lewis and Brenton are fighting over at the moment. We know that he's got...
Oh, he's done it by a thousandth of a second!
Jesus.
My goodness!
Wow, that is... How on earth did he manage that? He was up by a little bit, and we've seen it a few times where he's gone and overdriven the car. It was a much better line through Sector 3, I think, is what did it for him. But don't count your chickens too soon, because Hobson's got a little trail of flame light from behind of him.
Oh, he tried.
No, not quite.
He tried the return serve, but he was not able to. There is plenty of time. That's
time on his side.
Indeed. So this is turning into a scintillating duel here for pole position. Corey Ott has made the best of his opportunity to get a better lap time.
He's not far away either.
Exactly. I mean, to think that he's a proverbial mile away, and Hobson has improved on this first sector here. We'll keep an eye on that. Hopefully Baker doesn't get in his way. But he's a proverbial mile away at 0.129 of a second.
This is actually Hobson's last lap from what our pit reporter Bagsy is giving us. We've got to remember that there's a 10-lap limit here on how many laps they can set. And Hobson, look at him. He's got 3/10 on the top position at the moment.
Well, we could be looking at a 105 here, Nether, if Baker... it looks like, if anything, he'll get a benefit of some sort of a slipstream. Oh, no, he's gone off to the...
Well, Hobson wants the slipstream.
He was, yeah,
it's not going to be very much. He's following him.
And are we going to see the first 105 of the night? The question is...
Yes.
And the answer is yes. He's done it inside a tenth of a second of a 106. 105.915. So Hobson goes to the top with a scintillating performance. And can Wedding reply? Does he have an answer to Brenton Hobson?
Well, this is probably going to be Lewis's last run at it. I'm not sure how many laps that he's got left on the board. If we try and get out and have a bit of a look at our timing screens. Lewis has still got a couple of laps to go, so he probably might get 2 cracks at this.
2 bites of the cherry. Well, he may well need it because I don't think he's going to improve on this lap. He's down by 3 tenths. Oh, actually, that's his out lap. Sorry,
that was his out lap. So he'll get 2 flying laps because he won't get in and out in time, I don't think, to set another lap. Oh, he's gone very deep there too.
Well, I think that's his normal line though. We'll wait to see what the time is on the first sector, but he does seem to like a late apex on that first corner.
There's a few, most of the guys we've seen are trying to keep the title line there, but look at the price he's paid for it too.
Yep. And he's realised that he's not going to be in pole position. So he will be bitterly disappointed with the way things have turned out for him so far. But Hobson will have the complete opposite set of emotions about the whole situation.
Well, they've reversed positions from what they were only 15 minutes ago. It was Hobson was second and Wedding on pole, and now it's the other way around. But they're both still going to start from the front row, so that's some solace that they can take from that. But they don't hand out points for pole position, Stairs.
No, they don't. They don't. And, well, the thing about Wedding is that he is very consistent, and if anyone can win from second position, he can, because we know that although Hobson has the pace, he has made a few mistakes in recent times. We saw he's given up wins in Simmons Plains and Sandown, and in Monza indeed, due to mistakes. So if Wedding can hang with Hobson, he knows that there's a chance.
And all it takes is for a bad launch away from the line too for either one of those front runners, and the other will be into turn 1 first and could be gone.
That's right. So, well, I very much enjoyed that qualifying session, Nether.
We've still got, a 1 minute 45 to go, but unfortunately for us, the top couple of runners can't improve their times. There's still plenty of those that can, though. Just looking at Grand English, he's the last runner at the moment coming down to try and set another lap time. He's got a little bit of improvement here, but with Hobson going under the 1 minute 6 barrier, the gap from first to last has widened out to 1.9 seconds. Grand English pops up in one spot, so the gap's now only 1.8 seconds first to last. So it's a bit of a larger gap than what it was in the previous session. And we're just going to go across and take a look here at our Pro-Am server qualifying, just to see how the guys are going over there. And the top time over there at the moment is a 106.696 from Sam Dunstall. So a lot of times that are very, very similar to the times we're seeing on the Pro A and B class at the moment.
Indeed.
We've only got 9 runners over on our Pro-Am server tonight as well, whereas we've got 16 here on the main game.
Yes, so obviously the smaller numbers in this session making that qualifying just a little bit easier to follow, and it's been a while since we've had a real head-to-head duel for pole position like that.
It has. The clock's ticking down now, only 10 seconds remaining in this session, so is anybody still out there that can improve? We've got Brock Harvey coming down through the final sequence of corners to try and make an improvement.
Cracker's improved, he's 14th, and if he wants to, he's on his 13th lap, so didn't you say there was a limit of 10?
There was there was supposed to be a 10-lap limitation. Harvey's aborted the lap. The only person I think who can improve is still on track. It was Corey.
No, I think everyone's
finished
gone back
as well.
Yep.
Everyone's now finished. So that's qualifying done and dusted, Stairs.
It is. So Tara again was pretty good. Snow will be disappointed with 6th there in behind Schultz, but that top 6 is actually quite close. Devonish made the most of his opportunity to improve after a disastrous first qualifying session. He's up there in 7th place ahead of Dwayne Davies. Johnny, Baker, Harvey, I'm going to try and say this before the times have disappeared. Williams, Sanford, Crack, Keane and English. We'll go through it again when they go on their warm-up lap. But we're in the warm-up here, ready to proceed through to the beginning of the race itself.
The calm before the storm. We're expecting quite a bit of a battle into turn one, and as we said a bit earlier in the piece, turn one's the prime overtaking opportunity, and we'll probably expect to see them fan out 3 and sometimes even 4 wide as they jockey for position into a turn that probably can only accommodate 2 side by side at best.
Yes, and we've seen, of course, that Wedding has his interesting line into turn one. Whether or not he uses that in the race will be interesting, because it may well catch some people out as he cuts back across to take his late apex.
Those are guys that follow him, probably Brenton Hobson's behind and Corey up behind. They'll probably want to pay a little bit of attention to the line that he does take through there, because if they think that there's an open opportunity to make a pass and they end up making contact, then I'm sure there'll be words exchanged. So they probably might be better off just to observe him for a lap or two and see what he does into that turn before they think about making a move down there.
We mentioned Will Devonish making the most of his second chance in the qualifying session. In terms of the other winners, Grand English gained 6 positions on his. Actually, no, that can't be right. He's down there.
No, this was since the last qualifying session. But I'm trying to make heads or tails of this from our reporter Bagsy as well.
Yes, but Bagsy just fed us some information. We may just get that checked. But indeed, Dwayne Davies appears to have. No, we'll just check that. So disregard. We'll come back to that. But what were you saying before that, Nether?
I was going to say exactly the same thing that you were, Stez. We both got the same notes up here, and I took one look at those notes and I thought, that doesn't make sense. Maybe Bagsy's enjoying the hospitality a little bit too much down there.
The sponsor's product, Cooper's, which has been plentiful. And we've got a burnout happening in the pit lane there. Lewis Wedding obviously not worried about engine limitations for the race.
That's actually Jamie Snow, I think.
It is Jamie Snow, I beg your pardon. Well, Jamie Snow doing his very, very belated celebration for his win on Sunday, which he wasn't able to do. He told Matt Williams, who was in commentary on Sunday, that he was going to do a burnout after the race, no matter what the result. He ended up winning, but he had no fuel left to do a burnout. So
he was most disappointed in commentary when we had him.
Exactly right. But Jamie Snow, obviously, as we said, breaking his hoodoo on the weekend. He's led a few races, and we knew that the win wasn't that far away. He may have perhaps doubted himself a few times, but now he'll have the confidence knowing that he's going forward as a race winner. But today, he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to add to that tally.
Yeah, he got the monkey off his back in the GT3 races. A couple of times we had him in conversation in the Super Series race and also in the Formula 3 race that he contested, and he was kicking himself for losing it when he did and throwing away potential race victories. But getting the monkey off his back can do wonders for your confidence. But down there in 6th place. He was 5th after the first run of qualies. Second run of qualies netted him 6th. So he's on the same row of the grid, but just one position different. And
one thing
to see, there's a couple of guys moving to the drag strip part.
Oh yes, looks like we're about to have a drag race here between. Is that
Keane, Ott, and Snow's trying to get in on the act.
He is. Well, Snow has a new livery for this week. He's joined the. He's got the Le Mans go-karting team there. As he's joined and he looks like he's leading this drag race as well. So whether or not that's a sign of things to come,
I don't think the slipstream's going to help you there, Corey.
No, he's too far back. Just to touch on the mess of what we were saying before, Dwayne lost 3 positions in the second qualifying session, and English lost 6 as well. So those were the big losers out of that second qualifying session. So thank you, Bagsy, for clarifying that.
Yeah, he can read his own handwriting now.
Well, maybe he wrote it on his hand and his hand got sweaty, so it got a little bit difficult to read. But we've got 1 minute left in this warm-up session, which looks like is going to go to time while everyone has a bit of fun doing burnouts and jumps, taking what could be considered the short circuit, bypassing the hairpin, and doing some very, very impressive drifts around the final sector. Bit of rallycross.
Just looking over at the qualifying for the race 1 of the Pro-Am class, Sam Dunstall, the man with the top time of 106.696, which would have only been good for 8th on the grid here in the Pro-A and B class. So that's an interesting point to note, and that's out of a field of 9 runners over there.
That's well, that is very interesting. So a point that may come up in future weeks is who gets promoted from that AM class up into this Pro AB server, because of course there are some drivers such as Lewis Wedding who hadn't actually done enough races in AMS Oz to get a rating. I believe the limit is 5 before you achieve a rating. But because he has I-rating experience, and this is going to be a bit of a mess for the qualifying for the server. David Keen's got himself disqualified, potentially for driving backwards somewhere, and I believe that means he'll either have to rejoin another car and start from the back of the grid, or whether or not the server is able to overturn his DQ.
There was a couple of other DQs in there as well. I think Corey Ott had a DQ next to his name and a black flag. I'm assuming that's probably for something silly.
One would imagine. That's probably
one would imagine.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going to sort itself out, so they don't have to worry too much about it. Corey's still maintaining his 3rd position according to the screens that I have in front of me as they all start to grid up.
Yes, so the gridding process has begun. I think we're getting a warm-up. It's just a DQ from the session, I believe, so that won't affect us here. So, are we? I'm not 100% sure if we're getting a warm-up or whether it's just a green flag go when the lights come on.
Well, the last times we've had the Super Series, it's just been a green flag go. I hope it's not going to be that this time. We'd love to get a warm-up lap.
Because it'll give us a chance to just reiterate the positions. We unfortunately don't have fantastic camera angles to start.
Yeah, we are getting a warm-up.
We are.
We are getting a warm-up.
Oh, and Hobson's not moving. Someone hasn't told him that the session is go, and Wedding is already half a mile up the road. But he's figured it out now. He does like to mute himself in the service, so he might not have been paying attention. He's obviously looked up and seen that Wedding is several hundred metres up the road, and he will retake that position fairly soon. And we'll take this opportunity to have a look through and remind you of the order, because that is Hobson there in first place, or now taking first place. Behind him will be Lewis Wedding in 2nd. Corey Ott did a fantastic qualifying session. He's in the M&M car there in 3rd. Greg Turra, another one who has had a pretty good day so far. Schultz in 5th, ahead of Jamie Snow. He'll be hoping for a better result in the race itself. Can he keep his tyres alive? Will Devonish, the guy in 2nd in the championship, he lines up 7th. Behind him is Dwayne Davies in the Marlborough McLaren-inspired livery. Johnny down there in the Repsol in 9th place. Baker in the yellow car for 10th. Brock Harvey in the new livery there, high voltage go-karting. He's 11th. Got the lights ablaze. Matt Williams there in 12th. Did a good job in commentary on Sunday night. Lee Sanford lines up in 13th for Click Studios Racing. Cracker in the guest car 14th. David Keen 15th, and bringing up the rear, Grant English in 16th place.
So a couple of the guys have decided to put the headlights on, which is an interesting decision. In the GT3 race on Sunday night, the headlights were approved for cars that were overtaking lap traffic, so it'll be interesting to see if they decide to keep those headlights on. It could be a distraction for some of the guys ahead if they're battling for position. That's debatable. We'll remain how that pans out. But we've got 20 laps ahead of us, Stairs, as the back half of the grid just get themselves in order.
Yeah, still a couple of the last couple of guys just lining up now. Not an ideal camera angle for this start, but we work with what we've got here in Hidden Valley. At least we get a good view of the start lights. And Brenton Hobson will have the inside as we go into the first corner. And I think I would expect Wedding to, if he gets a good start, get that late apex and see if he can have a run on him. But here are the lights. We've got 4 of them ready to get us away here in Hidden Valley, and they are green, and it looks like a good start for Corey Ott. And now we're looking at from a fairly lengthy camera angle, and they jostle for position on the way down. Corey Ott trying to have a look, but Hobson defending the inside just a little bit, and there's no way through there. And Wedding looks like he might have the whole shot. It's going to hang it around the outside. Is he going to emerge in the lead? Hobson's going to have the grippier line. Oh, is he a bit of a moment? They're still side by side as they enter the second sector, and Wedding is in the lead, and all he has to do is defend that. Wedding is in the lead of this race.
Hobson had a little bit of a tardy start from pole position. He got away relatively well, but the second phase of the start was horrible. And Wedding managed to hang with him on the outside as we watched Wedding just go a little bit deep in the lockup and Hobson coming back underneath him. But the good thing is we are all clean, no incidents on the opening half of this lap, which is a positive given what we've had in some races in the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely right. We are going to remain green if the remainder of the lap is anything like the first half, but that's very good news. It means that we've still got 16 runners, I beg your pardon, and we've got a hell of a race on our hands because Ott isn't going to give Hobson any time to think, and we know if Hobson, if Ott gets half a chance, he will go for it, and he may well have half a chance down into turn 1. He's got the run here on Brenton Hobson, but Hobson has seen him coming. He just makes a feint to fend just a little bit to discourage Ott, and that was enough for Ott to just think, oh, we've got 19 more of these laps. Let's just have a bit of a think about this.
Yeah, we've had a 4-car train. Greg Turra just trying to hang on to the back of this leading trio and doing a relatively good job, but they've got a little bit of a gap on the guys behind them now as the 4 cars break away and they're going through turn 6 here.
Greg Turra's lost 12 places on that opening lap, so we wait to see what happened there.
Who was that, sorry, that lost positions on that lap?
Well, Greg Turra is, we're getting word through, is down there in 16th place. He's somehow a lap down, so we haven't seen what's happened there.
Yeah, I was going to say the timing screens have just gone a little bit weird at the moment because he's right up there. It wasn't expected that he'd lost that many places, so we could have a little timing glitch here, but we'll see.
Yes, actually, yeah, because he is the orange car there, and Snow is showing in 4th place. So whether he's got a corner cut or something, it's showing him a lap down. So, well, that's unfortunate if his transponder is having issues. And nonetheless, we have a leading trio here, and they're beginning to break away from the cars behind.
Actually, Greg's retired, so I think he's probably realised something's going on there, or the
he probably should have just kept going. He should have just kept going to see if the server corrected itself, because I have a feeling that that may have corrected himself. But desperate luck for Greg Turra, so track cut must have cost him a lap there. Oh, and Ott's gone wide. Ott's gone wide, and he's lost a few car lengths, but he's got it back under braking. He's done quite well, actually, to pull that back. Wedding's just pacing himself here, and Hobson and Ott, it's keeping them in the fight.
We've got a couple of battles all the way up and down the field, as well as we've got our leading trio ahead. We've got Snow defending from Devonish as well, so that's a tasty little battle shaping up there. And we've got quite a few gaggles of cars toward the back of the field. They're just starting to string themselves out a little bit now as they jockey for the best line and the best exit. And we're not seeing too many guys get a decent exit out of turn 14 to make any real move on anybody at the end of the main straight.
Wedding's covering the line here. He thinks that Hobson's going to have a lunge down the inside, so he's taking that sharp line into the corner and just hugging the inside of the apex, and that is very different to the line we saw him taking in qualifying. So it looks like he's just hanging on here.
There's not very many guys that have gained too many positions off the start. The best person is Matt Williams. He's gained 3 positions off the start. Some have gained 2 and some have gained 1, but he's the best out of all of them so far with the most positions gained since the drop of the green flag.
Exactly right. Well, they're coming into the final sector again, just sort of matching each other 10th for 10th through the first 2 sectors, but Hobson is all over the back of
a little nudge
Wedding
there.
Yeah, just a little love tap to say, look, I'm here, and if you want to win this race, you're going to hold me off for another 16 laps. And I look forward to seeing Brenton Hobson's video of this race, because it's that extra half hour of practice looks like it's done him a world of good today. And once again, Wedding covering the inside line.
Corey's just losing a little bit of touch with this leading trio as they try and get away. He's doing his best to hang on, but he did lose a little bit of time that lap around. He lost just a 10th. But it's a 10th over the last couple of laps that he's lost as well, 10th or 2.
He does seem to, in this section here where Wedding's covering the line.
Very close now.
He's just closing in a bit because these two are fighting each other, and now he's right on the back And it just seems like this is the part, that first sector and the hairpin seems to be where Wedding's struggling just a little bit. It's the final sector we saw that where he's just absolutely mighty. And that's, unfortunately, if you're Brenton Hobson, that's the part where you need to be strong. But he's got a very good, he's very close as they come up to the final corner here. And he just needs to get a good launch off that final corner to give himself half a chance into turn 1. And
yeah, that's what we saw. That's what we saw a few of the guys being able to do really well at the likes of Goiania, was get a really good exit out of the last turn and down the main straight for a passing opportunity to turn 1. But no one's really been able to make it stick so far here.
If Wedding makes a mistake here, he loses 2 positions because Ott is ready to pounce, and
he's caught
ever the
back up
opportunist. He's if there is an invitation, Ott will be RSVPing very, very quickly indeed.
Well, as we've been saying for the last couple of last week or so in the ARW League, was lick it, stamp it, and send it.
Well, yes, that's well. I asked Ott before Simmons Plains last week what his plan for the race was, and he would say he would send it. So any of you crediting Ricardo with coming up with that phrase, it was around long before Ricardo said lick a stamp and send it. But nonetheless, it is a mentality that many Australians follow. And Wedding, the way he's driving, I wonder if he can actually hold his tyres together for the rest of this race, because he just doesn't seem to have the pace to break away from these two. Their last laps were
Johnny
very...
off the circuit. Sorry to cut across your stairs. Johnny's off the circuit at the same spot where I think it was Rick Kelly went into the wall the other year, trying to get himself back onto track. So he's busy recovering, and as a result of that, promotes about half the field back up 1 position.
Lap 7, Hobson absolutely glued to the back of Lewis Wedding, and looking, just maybe having a bit of a look around the outside. Ott had a moment on the exit of turn number 1, and Hobson's trying to have a look about the outside. He's probably not going to get enough purchase there. There's no way Wedding's going to give him the grip, but he's just around the outside. He's turned in. Oh, I don't know if he saw him there. They bumped 2 or 3 times, and Brenton's through into the lead.
That's Lewis is driving extremely defensively, like at least a full car width off the racing line to try and close that gap down, but a little bit reminiscent of Dan Ricciardo on Valtteri Bottas at Shanghai.
A little bit less clean than that. There were a little bit of bumping.
Less cleaner.
Tried to cover the line, but it was too late. Hobson was already there. He had his nose up in front, and now Wedding's got his hands full to keep Ott behind. And can he stay with Hobson?
Car train.
Well, yes, but just on that last lap, the time there from Hobson was, let's see, it's a 1:07, and Wedding did a 1:07.5.
Oh,
so
Corey.
He's had a look down the inside, and Wedding's seen him coming, I think.
He's got
the high ground to the next corner. Wedding has the inside, and it's a drag race to the next, I say the next corner, these count as corners as well, but I mean this corner. The next braking zone is really what I should say. Oh, and that's a moment there for Wedding, and Ott was just not quite in the right place to get through. And a penalty for Johnny. We didn't see whether that... Oh, and Ott goes wide, so that gives Wedding a momentary relief. And Snow's not that far behind as well.
Johnny's penalty would have been for speeding in the pit lane, because he was in the pits after his little foray off the circuit in Sector 3 and had just exited the pit, so that'll be a pit lane speeding infringement. We've also lost David Keane after 2 laps as well. Not sure what's happened to him there, but he's out in the pits as well. So we're down to 14 runners.
Down to 14 runners, which relegates Johnny to, if he wasn't already last, so yes, and the drive-through will mean that he'll be further behind. So, yeah, and it's Keane and Tara in the pit, so everyone else out on the track, and Hobson has extended his lead to about 7/8 tenths of a second by the looks of it. Actually more than that. He's now completed a full second, and just stretching out that lead. And well, Wedding did his best to hold him off, but he couldn't do it for long enough, and just didn't cover the inside at the hairpin enough. He thought he had, and Hobson, we got
to spin out. It's Corey Ott.
It's Corey Ott's around, and he's losing positions. He's lost 3 positions already, and he's finally found a gear. He's found a gap to spin it round. He's going to lose more positions here. Here comes Scruff.
Harvey,
here comes Matt Williams and Harvey. So that has relegated Corey Ott down to 8th. So that that has put paid to any chances he had of victory, because would have been interesting to see if he... Oh, now he's stuffed the tyres because they've overheated from that spin. And
yeah, he did it all on his own. I'm just looking here on the replay. He did it all on his own, just slid off that last turn and just left a little bit of tyres too much on the outside apex, on the outside curb, and around she went.
And Hobson set the fastest lap, so he's checking out now. My timing screen is...
He's set 2 best laps in consecutive laps. His best laps now are 106.222, and before that it was a 106.3, so he's really trying to put the hammer down and get away here.
Lee Sanford's just been hit up the rear by Grant English into turn 1 there. There's a bit of a gaggle here of guys fighting for the last points positions in 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and well, actually even the DNF. We've got John. Speaking of DNFs, Johnny's DNF'd, but I believe he does get points for that based on the way the points have been going so far. As long as you finish in if you DNF when you're in a points-paying position, you still get the points. And Lee Sanford's
around.
Yeah,
Lee Sanford went around. Grant English centred up the inside at turn 6 there, and Lee was just trying to get back up the inside on the switchback, and went around after a little bit of contact being made.
That's right. Well, great friends, Matt Williams and Brock Harvey, currently 6th and 7th here, and they're pretty close on track, about just under a second separating these two. But Matt Williams with the faster lap on the previous occasion, 107.7 to Brock's 107.8.
Yeah, those two are very, very close mates, and as we reiterated earlier in the piece, Brock stepping away from an admin capacity role in the AMS Australia Series. We'll still be doing the mods, we'll still be doing the results and co, but the day-to-day running is going to be handled by Matt Williams. Brock just with a bit of a too full a schedule to be able to do too much, especially seeing as this group has grown quite substantially, probably beyond their wildest dreams actually, in such a short space of time.
I have to say, we all have undying gratitude for Brock Harvey and what he's done here. As you said, it was probably unprecedented, the growth that happened. He was expecting that he'd get a few friends together for some races, and he's ended up with well over 100 members on the Facebook group as he moves to the inside to defend. So our hats go off to Brock Harvey for what he's done so far. And of course he's not stepping away completely from all roles. He's still doing points and stuff like that, and the Short Shift podcast, which sponsors our final lap of these races. I'm sure I echo your sentiments as well, Nether. My thanks go to Brock Harvey for everything he's done so far, and our congratulations to Matt Williams on the new position at the top.
Yeah, and also a shout out as well to Matt Williams, and also I believe to Dwayne Davies, who also have some admin roles within the AMS Australia Series, and any of the other admins that we've missed out on. I think they're the only 3 that we sort of know who do any of the admin activities, but I'm sure on behalf of all the drivers across all the series, we are in great debt to the amount of work that you guys do in putting this stuff together. We're just here to broadcast it and make it look good on your screens, but we are forever indebted to the work you do behind the scenes.
Absolutely. We've just got an update on the AM class race, currently being dominated by Sam Dunstall. So he was much faster in quali than anyone else until lap 10, and then he spun and had to pit, so he's a lap down, and Philip Boak is the leader of that race by about 1.5 seconds from Brenton Foley. So thanks to Bagsy and our man in the pits for keeping us updated on that race. Unlucky for Sam Dunstall.
He's still got a race to go over there too, so he's got another opportunity to redeem himself from what was a dominant performance for half a race.
Jamie Snow has Will Devonish to contend with at the moment. Snow through...
Lee Sanford's coming into the pits actually. Sorry to cut across you. I'm not sure if this is
that
obviously not a scheduled stop. Yeah,
no, because there are no scheduled stops in this race, so it might be for damage. We saw that he got a tag there from English earlier in the race, so hopefully, well, unfortunately the damage is done. He's in the pits now, but hopefully it's not too bad. He can continue, pick up some points, because given the smaller server, there is the opportunity for more points today if you can keep it running.
That's right. I mean, they pay the points down, was it to 15th place, I believe, don't they?
That's right. And speaking of the points, with Hobson in the lead, he's going to add an additional 20 points to his current total of 110. And Devonish down there in 4th, he's going to add 12 points. so to his current total of 69. So that would be 81 points. Still losing a lot to Brenton Hobson, but much stronger performance for Devonish than he has had in, well, certainly in the first race in Monza, where he was, he had the pace, but he just didn't have the ability to recover from, and we've got a drive-through penalty for Lee Sanford. Sorry to cut across myself there. Yeah,
that'll be his pit lane exit for speeding. That's a
common problem.
Thing we
It is.
see that a lot, and
We
it's
do.
a surprise that we see that quite a lot, considering that these guys have got pit lane speed limiters. They know where the button is, but some guys release it a little too early.
Well, yes, the
and
thing
some
about
guys
it
get on a bit late.
is that it stops you from going over the speed limit, but it doesn't break the car for you when you are slowing down to get into the pit lane. And
No, it just
if
limits
you're
the
still,
engine.
you know, exactly, if you're still going well over 20 or 30 kilometres above the pit lane speed limit before you, when you hit the button before you enter the pits, then it's not going to rescue you. Anyway, that's unfortunate for Sanford, so he's going to fall further back down the order.
I'm just taking a look on the timing
He's
screen.
sorry,
here.
he's 13th, so he's not going to fall any further back than that.
Just take a look at Brenton Hobson's times at the moment. He's been consistently doing 1 minute sixes for the last 6 or 7 laps. He's been in the sixes majority of the race. His times are not that far away from a pace that we would expect him to be dropping off by this time now as the tyres start to wear. But in contrast, just a little bit.
Snow is inside. There's a bit of contact there, but Snow looks like he's all over the place trying to keep the rear in check in that Porsche. I don't know whether he's just overheated the tyres a little bit, but Devonish was all over him through that final sector. And Otts joined the Harvey and Williams battle as well.
Yeah. And in contrast, our second place man, Lewis Wedding, he's up and down. He's in the 6s and the 7s, so that's where Hobson's gaining the time. That Hobson's just picked up his element of consistency and is running away with this race.
That's a reversal of fortune.
Devonish is around. Devonish is around at turn 1. Just when it's a little bit too hot.
Yeah, and he was looking the more consistent of the two. Snow was all over the place the last time we looked at him. And so now Devonish is down there in 5th place, and Snow has a pretty clear track to himself now. So it doesn't have enough time in the remaining 4 laps. Can you believe it's been 16 laps already to catch up to Wedding or Hobson? And Schultz is now about 5 seconds behind him. Devonish in 5th.
Yeah, Schultz, the gap from Schultz to the 3rd place man is actually about just under 3 seconds. It's a visual gap, but Schultz has got quite a substantial gap on Devonish to 5th of about 5 seconds.
Matt Williams has made up 6 places in this race, so he's had quite the move up from qualifying.
Smoke show on the exit.
I was looking away from the screen. I didn't quite see how Brock Harvey got so far back on this battle, but Williams has got a lot of work now to keep Ott behind him, and I would be very surprised if he can. Ott may well go around the outside here. Matt Williams has stayed very defensive, and Ott's going to sweep through into the lead. Is he going to see? He's given him the room. That's very good racing there, because he was aware that Williams would still be there, and he's just carried all the speed around the outside, and he's got the whole shot up into 6th place.
Yeah, coming back to why Brock dropped off the back of Matt Williams also suddenly, it was obviously Corey Ott went through and took the place before he tackled Matt Williams, but Brock had a little bit of a moment on the outs, on the turns through the last sector of the race circuit that caused him to drop quite substantially away as well. Corey Ott now coming up to is it Lee Sanford, one of the lapped runners as well, who's
so
obviously
that's
had
not
to serve
for
a drive-through
position.
penalty.
Correct. So this gives us a bit of a chance to run through the order now, because we've got 3 laps remaining, or 2 laps after this one is complete. Brenton Hobson leads by 5 seconds from Lewis Wedding. Lewis Wedding probably now content to settle for 2nd place. He won't be pushing too hard, I won't imagine, with the remainder of this remainder of this race. Jamie Snow will be quite pleased with 3rd, I imagine, given that he wasn't really in the reckoning for 1st. Interesting that the fortunes can change. You would have been disappointed with 3rd last round when he binned it from 1st, but he's only been as high as 3rd in this race, so it's been and it's higher than his qualifying position, so well done, Jamie Snow. Schultz there, though, he's not that far away from Snow, so he can't relax, can Snow. Schultz will be certainly hoping to get himself up onto the podium. Devonish in 5th place, was up as high as 4th, fighting Snow for 3rd. And then behind him is the Corey Ott, who was challenging in that trio for the lead early on. And behind him, Matt Williams from Brock Harvey. Dwayne Davies has had a quiet race up there in 9th place. Baker in 10th. So he did pretty well in the GT3s the other week, but the Porsche's not quite as competitive by the looks of it. Cracker in 11th. Grand English in 12th. And Lee Sanford, our last man running, currently being lapped by Corey Ott.
Yeah, Lee Sanford's unfortunately a full lap down at this stage. Most of the battles on track have actually settled down for the remaining couple of laps there, so unless somebody makes a mistake, we're probably not going to see any more changes of position, I would imagine.
No, I wouldn't expect so. It's basically sort of settled into a pattern. We wait to see what happens in the second race, and Hobson is spinning. Hobson's round. Can he keep it together? He's got about a 3 seconds gap to Wedding, and he thankfully had that Wedding from his point of view, because he has now just got to keep it together for a little over a lap
coming up.
This is the last lap, sponsored by Short Shift Podcast. I remembered. So Hobson there, starting his final lap, but a much less comfortable final lap than he would have been hoping for. And Wedding might just have a little sniff.
He lost over half his lead there, Hobson, and just cut to it at the time where I'm not sure what happened. He must have just put it on the grass, but he somehow managed to hold it without going full 360 and not lose too much time.
It was a race-winning save if he can hold it together for the remainder. I don't know, has he burned through his tyres again? It's a problem that we know he's had in previous races. But Wedding is, regardless of the result, whether he wins or not, is going to end up having done 3 races, and Snow indeed, 3 races and 3 podiums. So incredible consistency for them. Hobson is also in the position he is because of so many podiums. He's finished on the podium grand total of 5 times out of 8 races, so one of them not being his fault, the DNF, and a couple of mistakes in the first 2 rounds. But nonetheless, he's going to come across the line to win this race by a margin of just under 3 seconds. Brenton Hobson extends his championship lead and wins the first race of round 5 here in Hidden Valley.
He does, and second place goes to Lewis Wedding. As we said before, it's a 3rd podium for him in 3 races. And we now turn to Jamie Snow, and he crosses the line to take 3rd, and same for him as well, I believe. Has he got, was that his first podium? Let's have a look at our results.
No, that's his third podium for Snow as well.
It's his 3rd podium for Snow as well.
That's right. So Schultz there.
Doing his burnout here.
He is doing his burnout. He's quite happy with that. He's doesn't need those tyres again. They're going to be. It's going to be a new set for him in the second race. Still got some work to do. Obviously, we've got another 57.4 kilometres remaining. But
we lost Brock Harvey at the end of that as well, Stairs. I'm not sure what happened to Brock. We also lost Dwayne Davies. So something happened to those guys in the last couple of laps.
They weren't that close on track. Was that?
They weren't that close on track.
I don't. Maybe Brock spun, and well, we won't guess. We'll wait for Bagsy to get across it. But nonetheless, that's bad luck for them. It promotes Baker up into 8th place, Cracker into 9th, and English, after his poor qualifying session, up into 10th for a good chunk of points there.
Yes, indeed. Well, we're just waiting for the last of the runners to get themselves back into the pit lane. Everyone's crossed the line, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and the remaining finishers. Best lap of that particular race was Brenton Hobson, surprise, surprise, with a 106.2. And he was remarkably consistent for majority of that race in the 106s as well, and very quickly eked himself out a nice little advantage, which served him well in the end, having a little half spin on that second last lap.
Indeed. We were going to get Bagsy, our man down in the pits, to go across it, but we're going to get it from the horse's mouth himself, because we didn't see what happened to you at the end of that race there, Brock. Can you fill us in?
Ran out of fuel. Highly technical problem.
Oh dear.
Oh no, he's run out of fuel. This is how that feels. I ran out on Sunday night. Isn't it? Yes.
I fueled for 20 laps, pretty much on the nose, and only got to 19. So
I had that happen in Guyana. Sorry to cut across you there. Just to talk about my own anecdote, but sometimes if you don't get the laps in practice, it miscalculates for you.
Yeah. So interesting development there. I came into the pits because I ran out right at pit lane entry, and I hit the go button, and it was just too late, so my pit box wasn't ready.
Dearie
And
me.
I've come through pit lane, and there's no one waiting for me.
They didn't have anything for you.
Yeah, so I just cruised through, and that was game over from there.
Oh, well, that's disappointing. We did catch some of your excellent battle there with Williams, which looked quite like a bit of fun, and Odd getting himself involved as well.
We had quite a good race, pretty much all race actually. So I think on that one I might have been a little bit quicker than that if I can get past him. But he did make a lot of mistakes. So unfortunately with these cars, you need the guy in front of you to either be drastically slower than you or he makes a mistake. Or there's no real place to pass around here. When Corey caught us, I just let him go because Corey caught us like night and day. So he didn't want to hold Corey up and spoil what might have been a good result for him. So.
Fair enough. Well, it certainly was entertaining for us watching Ott, Wedding and Hobson at the start. At the front, there was a battle for three of them, but Hobson was the one who emerged victorious in the end.
He was.
Surprise, surprise.
He did walk away from the field once he got clear of Lewis quite quickly, actually. We were very surprised and impressed to see that he was consistently in the 106s. And as we mentioned several times, it served him in good stead when he had a little half spin about 2/3 of the way through the second last lap and had to gather it up and actually ended up with enough margin to get to the flag still in first place.
Yes, I was able to channel my inner Darrell Eastlake there for a bit because there were some exciting moments and we thought we were going to have a change for the lead in the final 2 laps.
And just having a look at our results from our Pro-Am class, courtesy of our pit lane reporter Bags, the first place went to Philip Boak, second to Brenton Foley, and third to Topher. And we obviously had Sam Dunstall out in front for half the race, but then unfortunately spun it around and had to pit and then went 1 lap down. So hopefully he'll be able to redeem himself in the upcoming second race over there as well.
Absolutely right. Well, I'm sure he will. He looked like from the times he was setting that he would have been up there in the Pro AB qualifying session. But it's obviously he's unproven, so he's got to sit in the Pro Am until he's proven himself there. But well done to Philip Boak for an excellent win there in Pro Am.
Well, there's a couple of guys that are just missing from the Pro A B server at the moment. We're just waiting for them to make their way back in, and we've ticked over to qualifying, but hopefully these guys will get back in before they run out of time to set some laps. We're just waiting for the green flag to be shown here for qualifying 2.
Yes, so no one electing to wait in the pit lane while the time ticks over. Obviously, all just a little bit more patient than they were in that second qualifying session that we've had tonight. This is the third qualifying session. Brock Harvey has rejoined the remainder of... he's rejoined the rest of the runners. In fact, it looks like he may well be in the Pro-Am voice chat trying to help them out, get their second race underway. But the clock is underway here.
Pro-Am Quali 2 has just started as well. Rambo and Sam Dunstall are the guys that have set the early laps, but it's good to see that the two servers are running roughly at about the same pace as each other.
Probably no accident, I'd imagine.
No, probably no accident, but after the troubles that they've had on their end as well, it's good to see that they're up and running and they're not missing out on any of the racing action this evening.
Well, in this lull in proceedings, before we get underway, we might just throw to Bagsy to get his take on what happened during that race. Bagsy, are you with us there?
Yes, hello, how are you going?
Very good.
Excuse me, sorry, how are you going?
I'm very good.
It was an interesting race out front for the first part of it with Snow and Hobson and Wedding all having a go at it. I think Wedding might have burnt through his tyres a bit too fast, which is why Hobson was able to get away. But as we saw, end of the race, Hobson almost lost that win with his tyres being a bit too a bit too hot towards the end of the race, because especially this track with these long corners and just the one straight, you don't get much time to cool down those tyres.
There's just to update you as well, we've got a couple of cars that are on track at the moment in this qualifying session. We've got Baker, we've got Hobson, and we've got English are the only couple of guys on circuit. Sorry, as I say that, Will Devonish comes out as well. So they're just on outlaps at the moment. And it's interesting to note that they waited at least a minute before getting themselves onto track. So a little bit, I wouldn't say lazy, but everyone just taking their time to get out and set some laps. And I'm not sure if that's because we're still waiting on a few guys to come back in or not, but nevertheless the session's underway.
So Jamie Snow on what looks like his outlap. Just waiting for live time. We haven't got live timing at the moment by the looks of it. We're just looking to rectify that issue.
Looking at the on-track action, Hobson's first sector is a 23.0, which is a little bit slower than what we saw him do that magical 105.9 in qualifying. Well, for us it was qualifying 2, but effectively it's qualifying 1 for the previous race. And he's followed by Baker, who's about half a second off Brenton Hobson's pace at the moment, but probably learning all the time from one of the faster guys in this field.
Surprise, surprise, 2 purple sectors for Hobson so far, but obviously not many of them set so far in this session.
And it's probably interesting to note as well, Stairs, who's in this race, who actually is Pro A and Pro B, because it is a combination server, and some of the Pro A guys are obviously expected to be up the front, and the Pro B guys probably a bit further down the field. But we'll probably have a quick run through on who's in what class as the race progresses, I think. But
yes, right. Well, the guys obviously at the front of the last race, as you'd expect, were the Pro A guys. Hobson. Wedding has a free pass as he is an iRacer with a half-decent I rating. He's not officially ranked as Pro A in this round, but it won't be too many races.
He'll expect to learn that ranking.
Sure enough. Aaron Thomas, who's not with us today, he was the leader of this championship early on in the piece, but hasn't been in many of the Super Series races of late. Schultz is also in Pro A, as is Ott Snow and Heath Dixon, who unfortunately, due to real-life commitments, is only ever able to make the second race if he can make the second race, and we wait to see if he can join us. We had the second qualifying session, so if there was a chance of him joining this race late, tonight will be the night, but no sign of him as yet.
While you were just talking about Heath Dixon there, Stairs, Hobson was absolutely flying, and he's done another 105.9. He's done a 9.
Wow.
This one was a 9.79 as opposed to his 9.15 from the previous quali. So he's wasting no time getting down to business here.
Yeah, well, he's got his eye in. We saw just how much pressure he put Wedding under, and Wedding didn't really make a mistake. He just, unless you count, not defending hard enough a mistake, but he just didn't have the pace to live with him, and he's improving once more. I wonder if that little lock of the inside tyre, the inside front tyre, will cost him, but he was up by 0.03 of a second.
Using all the track there as well. So he's really wringing the neck of this car.
He doesn't have the benefit of a slipstream or anything, and he's lost just a little bit, but just look how consistent he is. It's just, these lap times within hundredths of a second of one another.
He just seems to find it, doesn't he?
He does.
Once he's got his eye in, he's like a dog with a bit between his teeth. He just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going.
Certainly does. We wait to see whether Wedding's got any response to that. At the moment, it looks like his best bet. It looks like, and Hobson's up by a 10th again, so this is looking like he's going to drop into the 105.8s, which will be truly special. But it looks like Wedding's best bet may well be to qualify second, get a good start, overtake Hobbo like he did on the first race, and this time try and hold it. But I don't know. It just seems And Hobbo once again, nearly 2 tenths now. He may
This
well
is
be
gonna be a
aiming
mega
for a
lap.
107, a 105.7.
It's going to be a mega lap when he comes through here. If he gets a good exit, he uses all the road again. Yeah, this is looking ominous. He's looking to go back to back here.
He is. He wasn't.
Well, there it is. You called
There
it.
you go. A 105.742. So he may even have more time in him, but nonetheless, that's a purple time, and I very much doubt anyone else can touch that. He's the only man we've seen tonight in the 105s, and he didn't get a win in Monza. He didn't get a win in Goiânia, and he's obviously put that right tonight already, and he wants to go for the full points, full 40 points here. He was up before, he's just done that as well. He's lost his wing now, so he's not going to improve on this particular lap, but he was up in the first sector by another 600ths of a second, which is something that his fellow competitors will be sitting in the pit lane going, yeah, huh? And something that I know very well how that feels. So Devonish currently second on track.
Yeah, their jaws will be on the floor. You're absolutely right. They'll be astonished at what they're seeing, but it's not to be unexpected. He needed to respond, given that he's had the gauntlet thrown down to him in the last couple of rounds by Maloney, who's unfortunately not with us, and Lewis Wedding last race out, or last 2 races out in Monza. So he knew that they had him in the crosshairs, and he needed to put something down and just show these guys who's boss, and he's done that early. And looking to do the double-double now, much as like Heath Dixon did in the Formula 3 race a couple of weeks ago with a double pole and a double race win. He's well on track to doing that at the moment.
Well, Wedding has taken to the track. We've seen that I think he's on his out lap currently. Just about to see if he can respond to the formidable task that Hobson has set for him. Bit of an update now on the Pro-Am class. Apparently Dunstall and Bogue are within 100th of each other in that qualifying session, so that one looking a bit more a bit closer than the one we're looking at right now. So Bogue obviously with a fair bit of confidence after that race win. Dunstall's got some work on his hands.
A couple of guys haven't made it back into this session for qualifying 2 and race 2, but they're going to have to get themselves back in if they want to have any hope of competing in race 2, because once qualifying is over and we go over to the race session, they will not be able to get in. So
that's right.
We've got 13 runners at the moment, whereas we had 16 on the last run. And those that we are missing appear to be, Greg Turra for one is missing. David Keane is the second one who's missing, and if memory serves me correctly, no, Johnny's in here at the minute. So he was the other one who DNF'd, but so we're still missing one more, but we haven't been able to work.
Well, 13 runners at the moment, so we did have 16 at one point. And I'm seeing a
it's Grand English, so our pit reporter Bagsy has told us it's Grand English who's missing.
Grand English, all right. So well, we hope that Grand English can come back. He obviously, he finished 10th in the first race, which, considering where he qualified, was not a bad result. Gets a handful of points, but of course, none of us are in this for 10th place. He would have been hoping for a bit better than that.
He would have been. Lewis Wedding just on his first lap, and he's putting it down just as a banker because he's some 1.3 seconds off the top time at the moment. So this one's definitely just a sighter as he comes onto the main straight.
That's right. Williams is starting a fast lap, and we're just looking through at the sector times to see if anyone else is on a fast one. Doesn't look particularly as though anyone is. Wedding goes green on his lap, so it's personal best for this session, but only good enough for 7th thus far.
We've got Schultz, Ott and Harvey also currently going for laps at the moment. So Corey Ott yet to actually set a time. He was a late arrival back into the server after the conclusion of race number 1. He was part of that early 3-car train that broke away, and then he lost it on the exit of turn 6 and lost several positions.
Wedding's he's aborted that lap, so I don't know what happened there. I wasn't looking at the screen, but just saw him dive off the road, so he's had a think about it, and he's really only going to have one chance to do
Corey's
a couple.
Gone across the grass. Corey's gone across the grass, and he didn't improve his time at all. Or
And
he's
again,
7/10 off, but he probably lost a little bit of time there.
not ideal, not ideal.
Would you believe it or not, Hobson's back on track again, so clearly not satisfied with a 105.7. He's going out for more blood.
Well, he's got the biscuits already. I'm calling it. He's got pole position now. He has a 7/10 advantage over the second place man, Jamie Snow. And that is a lot of time to find over just, you know, just over, what is it, 2 kilometres? It's a very short circuit.
Yeah, 2.8, just under 2.8.
So, you know, in the context of 1 minute and 5 second lap, 7/10 is an absolute mile. But nonetheless, Hobson is seeing what he can do to bring that down even further. Can he get a 105.6? I'll lose all semblance of who I am as a person if he can get a 105.6.
You go to channel your inner Darrell Eastlake again if he can do it.
Well, we're looking at him right now, so we wait for the first sector split. What can he produce for us now? He's marginally off. There's still a chance he can improve here. I mean, we're talking minute differences here. Very tight line he takes through the hairpin, very different to Wedding, and it would appear that it's the correct line because it's been the fastest here all through the evening, and it's just been a clean lap. That's what it has. He's no showboating, no sort of sliding, locking of. Well, as I say that, he's just slid through that corner, but apart from that, very, very clean. And it's actually that slide has cost him on the clock there because he's a 10th down.
Yeah, you're right. I think turn 1 is where he seems to be finding his time too, and we've seen the difference in lines between the majority of the field and Lewis Wedding there all night, and clearly Wedding feels more comfortable going a bit deeper and taking that late apex because he wants that speed down into the turn 5 right-hander, but as we've seen, it looks like that the tighter line, which is the racing line, is the one to be on through that first turn.
Absolutely. And well, just looking to see if anyone else can better Jamie Snow right now, because it looks like he's the man on the up. Having set the time good enough for second place, he was ever improving throughout the race and qualifying 1. And no one has surpassed his time of a 106.4 apart from Brenton Hobson.
No, well, Will Devonish was the closest man who could have actually threatened for going up there onto the front row, but he's up in the garage and he won't get another lap in. We actually just saw Johnny pop up into 4th place as well, so he's done a 106.6, which is a much better qualifying performance than his first race, so that's a provisional 2nd row for him, barring any late movements.
And Hobson, I think he might have just got held up by Lee Sanford on that lap. He dropped a couple of tenths in the final sector. Over in the Pro-Am, Sam Dunstall's currently on provisional pole with a 106.3, which would put him more or less second in this qualifying session. So Dunstall seems like
over there.
Won't be very far away from joining us in the Pro AB rankings by the sound of it, but Hobson is up by 1/4 of a tenth of a second on the first sector of his 10th lap.
Yeah, that qualifying 2 session over on the Pro-Am server is done. It is a pole for Dunstall, and that is the time. The 106.3 is the pole time, so a much better qualifying session over there as well. I'm looking at the timing screens here, Stairs, and there's a trail of flames behind Hobson. So has he dropped time in this sector though?
Yeah, he's down.
Not that far away though.
Yeah, 3/4 of a tenth of a second now. But whether or not he can find anything in the final sector, I remain. I'm awaiting with bated breath to see whether I'm going to lose my. No, he's backed out of it. He's backed out of it. So we would have been nice to see what that was, but. Time has expired and Hobbo's happy with a 105.7. That is going to be pole position. Snow did improve by a couple of tenths to get up towards half a second of
Lewis Wedding's 11th, Stairs. Sorry to cut across you. Lewis Wedding's 11th, and this is his last attempt to move up the order. What can he actually do? He actually got up to third after that. So, that's the only late movement that we've seen. And that knocks Corey Ott down to the 3rd row.
Yes, Devonish with a very good qualifying session up there in 4th. We were too busy looking at the Hobson Masterclass to really take notice of the other big movers there. Johnny's done well there up in 6th place. And of course we don't have Turret in this session, so he was the other one who was up there sort of challenging in the top 4. Well, Hobson going to be the man to beat. I don't know if Snow has an answer.
Yeah. David Keane arrived late into that session too, Stairs, so he had a late arrival back in, so we're up to 14 runners, but he didn't set a time, so he's going to be starting last on this grid for race number 2.
Yes, we're currently in the warm-up, just about to roll in the warm-up before the race begins. So we will wait to bring you that when it starts. And just a couple of people heading to the track in the warm-up session so far.
Yeah, a couple of guys just probably want to get their eye in a little bit. I think we saw Corey Ott's there, and if memory serves me correctly, it was David Keane. So he was just on car, so he was the one that came in late to that service. He probably wants to go out there and get a feel for some of the track conditions, given it will evolve since the race number 1.
Boys will be boys.
Yes. So that wall there too. Going up. So as you said, boys in there. Boys will be boys, but also boys in there. Boys.
Well, we love engines. Racing closely. And we may not minute
We love a little bit on track action, and we just got word also through from our pit reporter Bagsy, the Pro-Am race is about to go underway in a couple of seconds, so they're just ahead time-wise.
Depending on how this race goes, we may well get some updates on it during the race, but we hope it's not good because we're expecting an action track race. Beginning on the second race.
Well, there's, do you think Hobson's going to do it and make it a grand slam for race number 2? He did it race number 1. He's well on his way in race number 2 with 20 laps ahead of him. Do you honestly think anyone's going to threaten him?
Well, he got the pole position. He got the fastest lap and he got the win. He didn't lead every lap though, and that's really the only blot on his copybook so far. And honestly, given the way that it's so far, I fail to see how anyone can change that for him. But he's known to make the odd mistake. Sometimes he can be a bit complacent. It's a great thing.
The only thing I'll be interested at him for this second race is how he gets away from the grid. He starts a little bit tardy on race number 1 and he's followed up by Lewis Wedding in turn number 1. Then Brandon Youngman Wedding alongside him for race number 2 start, but he's behind him, and Jamie Snow's going to slash either, so if he gets a good launch, he could have a three-way battle in turn number 1.
Well, yes, I would like to remain neutral, but I really hope for the sake of the race that Snow can get ahead of Hobson on the start to give us some sort of action at the beginning, because that would be certainly very entertaining to watch. But Snow is going to have that question mark hanging over his head, even though he has the voodoo or whatever you want to call it, removed by winning that free race on the weekend. He still has that question mark over how he's going to make that. Although he won one race and under some sort of pressure with saving fuel, safety closing, hasn't had that intense, fast battle to the end of the race.
And when we talk about pressure, and we've mentioned this on the broadcast a couple of times over the last few weeks, there's actual pressure and perceived pressure. So the actual pressure coming from when you've got people right up your chuff behind you and wanting to get past, and then there's perceived pressure of people closing in or thinking that people are closing in, or the pressure that goes on yourself. Perceived pressure all being a mental pressure as well, and how you cope mentally as well as physically in the confines of battle with another car on track. Jamie's proven that he can do it with cars right behind him, but the perceived pressure, I think, is the one he really wants to get the moles off his back of.
Absolutely, and that will come with time. I mean, the guys, he's only had a steering wheel for 6 weeks, yeah, a month at least. But it's something that will improve with time, and he has the confidence now in one race. And every time he's in a race, apexes. Don't worry about the car behind you. If he goes into the back of you, you just got to focus on your own race and try to overheat time. With these cars, that may well be his biggest obstacle at the moment. Just giving those times actually what we saw in
very slowly coming to grips with it, but obviously Brent would like to come to grips a little bit quicker, but things take time, as we like to point out, and no doubt he's going to be up there towards the final end of this championship. Before we get underway, as the car starts to boot up here for race number 2, have a quick look over at the Pro and race that's currently going on at the moment. That's complete lap 4. And it's Sam Dunstall and Philip Boak, just separated by less than a second, that are doing battle for the top 2 places, with Rambo looking to redeem himself after his horror efforts at Monza. He's up in 3rd at the moment comfortably. So that race about a quarter of the way there now, and we'll tune into that a bit later and see how things are going.
Best of luck to everyone competing in that race. Just a quick rundown of the top 3 in the points for... after race 1, we've got Hobson there on 130 points there, well clear of Devonish on 80 points, a 50-point margin, can you believe that? And in third place we have, let me just find it on the screen here, it's Aaron Schultz there on 60 points, so well done to those 3 as we get the warm-up lap underway, and it looks as though well, it looks as though everyone's got away cleanly. You would expect that. It's a warm-up lap. But let's just take you quickly through the order. Nether, do you want to do it for us this time round?
We sure can. So Brenton Hobson will start from the pole position, and yet again a little bit tardy away from the start of the warm-up lap. This time Jamie Stowe occupies the front row alongside Hobson, starting 2nd. We've got Lewis Wedding, the late move up the grid. He starts 3rd, so he'll be looking to make amends for... losing that first race. Will Devonish starts 4th, and behind him we've got on the 3rd row Corey Ott starting 5th, and Johnny, his best qualifying of the 2 races, starting 6th. We've got Brock Harvey starting 7th, and alongside him will be Aaron Schultz in the Darrell Lee sticks, looking like car. We've got Dwayne Davies starting in 9th. And Baker's in 10th alongside him, even though he's a bit further up ahead on track, still starting on the 5th row. Matt Williams starting 11th, and he was the man who gained the most positions in that first race, so he'll be looking to repeat the same efforts.
He's well placed to do that.
He's well placed again. Lee Sanford starting 12th alongside Matt Williams, and the back row of the grid occupied by Cracker starting 13th and David Keane starting 14th. We are 2 runners less than what we had for the first race, only 14 this time.
Well, the leaders have made their way into their grid slots while we look towards the back of the grid, and just the final 4 cars still finding their way. All of the rest of the cars, their brake temperature and tyre temperatures will be just slowly coming down from
Sanford's
the
got to
ideal.
come a bit further forward here. He's just a bit too far back, so he's now in position.
He's now in position. So now we look towards the lights, because Brenton Hobson in the same position last time round. He lost the position on the lead. What can Jamie Snow or indeed Lewis Wedding do? We know we saw Corey Ott can have a fast start. Devonish is not quite...
There's a few guys that are a bit behind. Here we go. Here we go.
All right. Well, we've got the lights ready to get us away for race 2 here in Hidden Valley in Darwin. The race is green And once again, it looks like Hobson's got a slightly tardy getaway, and Devonish...
He has.
And, Wedding is pulled up alongside, and Snow
Three
may
wide.
well get the outs... Yeah, as you said, 3 wide. And Hobson, though, so far on the inside, there is a crash, and it's the Sticks
Harvey
car
and Schultz
Harvey.
and Davies.
Oh, dearie me. So...
3 cars involved there. I'm just going to go back and have a look and see if we can work out what exactly happened. But very, very unfortunate at turn number 1 that we've had a couple of runners go round.
Meanwhile, the front, Corey up into 4th place is challenging Lewis Wedding there for 3rd place, but lets Devonish up the inside, and it's all checked up with Wedding having a bit of a moment, and he's going to lose positions out of this. It's Jamie Snow in 2nd. Well, he's maybe not going to lose positions out of it, but actually no, Devonish has made 2 places in the last sector because of that moment of Lewis Wedding, and so Devonish up into a podium place. And Corey Ott, a bit of a loser there. He was looking to make it up into 3rd. Instead, he's got to settle with 5th with Johnny right up his chuff.
Just a bit of a recap on that turn 1 incident. Unfortunately, David Keane gave a bit of a push in the backside to Dwayne Davies, and it went into the wall. Dwayne then went on to collect the backs of Brock Harvey and Aaron Schultz as he was being spun back onto the track. So not Dwayne's fault, unfortunately. He got a shove from behind, and that was the cause of the calamity at turn 1. And
Ott's making his way past up into 3rd place, though, or they're side by side. It looked like he had the position done, but Wedding's not going to give it up without a fight. He's got the inside line into the next corner, and Ott trying to try for the switchback up to the hairpin. And all of this is meaning that Devonish up in 3rd place is getting away a little bit. Speaking of people getting away, Hobbo has already stretched out to about a 1.7 second lead from Jamie Snow, as Will Devonish just a few car lengths behind him.
We've got a good scrap for 4th and 5th place here, Corey Ott and Lewis Wedding, and Ott's got the high ground here through the last sector of the circuit, through 12, 13 and 14, and he's got the job done. He made a move at the hairpin and stayed side by side with Lewis Wedding all through the better part of that 3rd sector. And
someone's in the wall at the last corner.
I think that might be David Keane. Yes, it is. It's David Keane around. That's 2 little indiscretions he's had in the opening 2 laps.
Wedding's having a look down the inside of Corey Ott at turn 1. He's got a long way to go to get that stopped, and there's no way. And Johnny goes wide as well, and Matt Williams is through. My goodness, how many positions has he made up on the first couple of laps there? Matt Williams up into 6th place.
He's up
Unbelievable.
5 positions from his starting grid spot of 11th, and a beautiful switchback from Corey Ott at turn 1 with Wedding going for the move and going a bit too deep, and Ott just sticking to his line and got back underneath and retained the position. So beautiful switchback.
Well, that was the line we saw Williams, that we saw Wedding take in the qualifying session, but I think that was a mistake on that occasion. We've got a penalty for Dwayne Davies, which surely must be for a pit lane speeding infringement.
Correct.
He is just coming out of the pits at the moment. You couldn't possibly get 4 track cuts in that 3 time. Well, maybe you can, but it would take a special effort. But that is indeed for pit lane speed infringement for Dwayne Davies. So desperate luck for him so far.
Yeah, he was in the unfortunate innocent party in that turn 1 incident, getting turned around and had damage to repair. But
got round 2 here of Ott versus Wedding. Ott defended early, and Wedding forcing him to go around the outside, and they're basically through turn 1 and 2 side by side, but Wedding is forced to slot in behind, and this battle is not done yet. Fantastic racing.
It is, and looking to go a little bit defensive there, but thinking of it. And Matt Williams is still right under the rear wing of Lewis Wedding as well, so he's hanging on to this little battle. And,
he'd be licking his lips right now, saying, "Giddy up," because he can sense 2 positions in one go here. They could take each other out.
Yeah, slightest mistake from either of these 2 guys ahead. If one of them takes the other one out, then Matt will be through, and that'll be a joyous moment for him, I'm sure. But we don't want an unfortunate incident to rob us of what could potentially be a wonderful scrap, and we're only 4 laps in.
Nether, I hope this goes on all bloody race. Beg my French, but at the front, Snow is 3 seconds behind Hobson, so Hobson's checking out at the moment. This is the closest battle by the looks of it on track, and just Williams just keeping in touch with that battle, and he really is. It's basically like investing in shares, and you don't know if there's a dividend, but there may well be one. if he hangs on here, because he's got a huge opportunity of a lot of points here.
Yeah. I'm just having a look to see what Hobson's times are since he is at the front of the field. Oh, and as you mentioned that, I'm assuming that's back in the pack with Ott and Wedding and Williams again.
Yeah, we're still looking at this battle because Wedding was a bit deep into the hairpin and probably wasn't expecting Ott to be on the brakes when he was, because Wedding has a very deep braking zone. His braking point seems to be quite deep into that hairpin, and it looks like he caught himself out just a little bit. He's just dropped off a couple of car lengths in the last bit. I just heard the pit lane siren, so someone into the pits? No, maybe I'm hearing things. Hobson sets the fastest lap.
Yeah, Hobson sets his quickest lap. I believe that may be one of the other cars coming through.
Wedding's gone for a dive bomb down into turn 1, and Ott's just gone the crisscross and right through. He's got the place back almost immediately. I barely had time to... I'm just taking a drink of water there, and barely had time to get that out because it happened so quickly. As I started the sentence and Ott was in the lead, I finished the sentence and Ott was in the lead of that battle, I should say. But in between, in the middle words of that sentence, Wedding was in the lead.
Just coming back to what I was talking about to mention before that little incident came upstairs, Hobson's wasted absolutely no time consistently in the 1 minute 6, as he said, a 6.4, a 6.5, a 6.5 and a 6.2 on his opening laps 2, 3, 4 and 5, and he looks set to do it again to go into the 6s as we wait for him to cross the line, and that last lap around was also a 6.2, so he's really on a charge and just showing these guys you might have come in to challenge me, but I will raise you one and show you how it's done, boys.
Well, it's just gone a little bit more defensive in turn 1 than before. He knows now that Wedding's going to have a go if he's anywhere near close enough, so Ott knows to cover that off. I made the prediction early on in the race that Hobson was going to, early on before the race even started, and Wedding's going down this corner. Oh my goodness, down into turn 5, and wasn't expecting that, and probably neither was Ott, as Devonish has dropped off the back of Snow and he's coming back towards these guys.
He is, and it's not necessarily a well-noted passing opportunity. We've seen a couple of supercars races in the past where turn 5 is a passing opportunity, but you have to be really close to make that one stick, as Will just sliding through, I think that's turn 11 there. So you're right, he's coming back to these guys. It won't be too long before they're back on the back of him. A quick update from the Pro-Am. At the halfway point, it was Sam Dunstall leading by 3 seconds, but another mistake, unfortunately, has seen Philip Boak go into the lead. Now, Dunstall hasn't lost a lap, but he's going to have it all to do on that race to redeem himself.
Fast but inconsistent. You can teach consistency, but you can't teach speed. So Dunstall will learn from this experience. Speaking of fast guys, the point I was going to make before about Brenton Hobson is checked out front, 7 laps. I made the prediction before the race, and I don't think it was a bold prediction that he would lead every lap and set a fastest lap and get that Grand Shalom that he didn't get in the first race. So far he's going every bit the way towards doing that, but we know that he can make mistakes if he gets himself out to a lead that is potentially very comfortable. But behind him, these guys are all closing up. Snow is actually coming back towards Devonish, as Devonish is coming back towards Ott and Wedding. So we've got a 4-car gaggle, and it may well get even bigger with Williams and Johnny not too far behind themselves.
Depends how long these guys can go. Ott just ducks out from behind Devonish here, and he's looking to make a move.
That's quite clean. He's done that.
That's a very clean manoeuvre.
And I shouldn't sound surprised, because in the end it was actually, he had the move done pretty much before the braking zone, and all he had to do was hit his mark and get through. But that's going to give him a nice buffer from Wedding, who was giving him no space to relax at all.
Absolutely right. I mean, Ott had the better drive off of the final turn as well, so he had the bigger top end speed going into turn number 1, and that move was well over and done with before they even reached the turning and point for turn number 1. And Will just keeping Lewis behind him here, just allowing Corey a little bit of breathing space to get away and hopefully get onto the back of Jamie. But Lewis won't want him to be sit behind Will for too long. He'll want to be right back up there, and his next opportunity to get past is down at turn 1, but I'm not sure if he's quite close enough here, Stairs. He's going to need to do a bit more work. No,
he's going to have a bonsai move into turn 1 if he wants to get by, and all the time this is happening, he's seeing Ott and Snow get away up at the head, up ahead, and Devonish has just gone a little bit wide on turn 1, and a late apex into turn 2 that Wedding knows all about, but I almost like Devonish had a momentary thought to go up into that gap. As
Cracker go around at turn number 1 and getting off the racing line. Sorry to cut across.
He's gone for an opportunistic move. He's seen the mistake from Devonish, and he's gone for the move. He's gone for the inside, and he's spun himself around, and Jamie Snow is dropping back down the field. He's recovering to the track still. He's down in 8th place. He's probably going to drop the place to Baker. Sorry, Lewis Wedding. Sorry, Jamie Snow, I didn't mean that at all. Lewis Wedding is not. We're not used to seeing him make mistakes, but tonight, after that first qualifying session, it's just been very gradually downhill for him since then. Still doing very well, but by his lofty standards that he's shown us in the first 3 races that he's been in, this is the biggest trial we've seen as Harvey goes wide in the background.
This is his biggest challenge. He's just looking a little bit anxious behind Corey Ott when he was at the beginning of that lap, and they went through, and then we had Cracker spinning at turn number 1 as well, but getting off the racing line just at the same time that Lewis was going around. We spoke earlier in the night about Lewis just overdriving the car a little bit and not looking like his usual self like we've seen him do, especially in the Supercar series where he was the class of the field. He just needs to settle it down and just bring it back a notch and just find that consistency that delivered him such a strong result at Symmons Plains last Thursday night.
Well, we know that when you get the tyres outside the window here in these Porsches, they don't give you anything, and you've just got to settle down for a lap and let them come back to you. Speaking of coming back, Dunstall in the Pro-Am race, we've just got word through he's 1 second behind Boak with 4 laps to go, so it looks like he's recovering well in that race for the Pro-Am title.
Yeah, we're going to keep an eye on that one just to see what's happening there, and Boak's still leading, and there's only 2 and a bit laps to go.
Ott's having a go on Snow here. He's got the outside line because Snow's had to defend. That's how close the battle is, and that's a rivalry that we saw. Didn't quite see ignite in the GT3 races on Sunday night, but they were very close in terms of speed, and here again it looks like that's the case.
That was true. We had Jamie in a Ferrari 488, and we had Corey in the Audi on GT3 night on Sunday night.
Audi
we were waiting for the strategy to pan out to see if they would come back to each other, but it was looking like it was going to be a good shaping up battle until Corey had to run with a splash and dash at the end, and that put any hope of us seeing a grandstand finish on hold until the next GT3 race.
Well, one thing we know about Corey Ott is that he won't die wondering. There is no way that within the next 8 laps he's not going to have a go. He sometimes pays for it with inconsistencies. Maybe he'll have a crash, maybe he'll get the move done, but he's not going to go to sleep tonight thinking, what if? And here he goes, down the inside. Snow sees him coming, gives him the room. Is he going to get enough grip around the outside to... No, he's not. No, he's not. I asked the question, it was answered before I finished asking it, and Ott just seems to have the pace right now. He's got those headlights ablaze, and well, there's 8 seconds between himself and Hobson, and about 7 laps to go. It'd be a tall order for him to close that down, but he's up into 2nd place, and I think he'll be quite happy with that, considering how he started tonight.
Devonish has gone wide at turn 1, and he's lost 2 places there, so he's now down into 5th. I'm just looking at the timing screens too. Aside from his opening lap from the grid, it's taken until lap 12 for Brenton Hobson to step out of the 1 minute 6s. So, and now and on lap 13 goes back into the 1 minute 6s. So an incredibly consistent performance from our race leader out in front, and he's just absolutely walking away with this race. In actual fact, he's about to put David Keane a lap down by the looks of things.
Well, yes, so Brenton Hobson absolutely in control of this race, really just needs to coax it home from here. His best lap is a 106.2, but he's still his last lap was a 106.3, and that's about 2/10 faster than Ott was on his previous. What Ott was on his best lap. On his previous lap, that's something in the order of 4/10 faster than Ott.
And looking over at...
Almost a replay we're seeing of what happened to Hobson in the first race on the second last lap. Just losing it slightly in the final sector, but he recovered it a little bit better than he did. Actually, we've got a yellow flag for a safety car. The yellow flag's
we have got
out.
a full caution, and the safety car has been deployed. So we're trying to. It's for Jamie Snow. Jamie Snow's gone off at the last turn and just it's an unsafe rejoin. In front of Williams and Devonish. I'm not sure if Jamie Snow's the actual cause of the safety car or not.
Well, we saw that he spun under the safety car on Sunday. Well, we didn't see it. We heard about it, but
I'm assuming that it is because I haven't seen anything else on track to point out who it was.
So he's going to lose the position. He has to stay behind Matt Williams now, and he'll be yelling on the Discord server that he's going to sell his wheel. And I implore you, Jamie, to not sell your wheel, because just because you've had a few offs doesn't mean that you're not one of the fastest guys out there. But you're going to get a second chance because the field's all going to close up. I think it's 3 laps under the safety car.
I believe so.
And so that means that they'll have just a 3-lap dash after that to decide this race. So Hobson, with it all under control, is going to have a Corey Ott under his wing. And there's a lap runner in between Ott and Hobson by the looks of it. The Tissot car, is that Schultz?
No, that's David Keane, the Tissot car. So he's
pardon.
lapped. So he's out of position here in this field. Hobson just put him a lap down before the safety car came out. Dwayne Davies was already a lap down because he'd had to tour the pits. But David Keane is the man out of position there in the Tissot entry. On a more interesting note, while we're under safety car proceedings, the Pro-Am class race has finished, and the top 3 were covered by 1 second at the flag. First and second only separated by 0.2 of a second, and it actually went to Philip Boak. He managed to hold off a hard-charging Sam Dunstall at the end of that, so Dunstall trying to make amends, but unfortunately had to settle for second in that race number 2. So Pro-Am class done and dusted for the evening. Boak winning both races.
Well done, Boak. So he is doing very well on his bid to get himself up towards a Pro A or B rating. While you were talking, we saw David Keane peel off into the pit lane. He's really got nothing to lose or gain, as he is a lap down there on everyone else. So he'll just get some fresh tyres and get some running in before the end of the race. He will catch up, even though it is a short lap, because given the couple of laps that they'll have to run under the safety car, they should be all right. But well, this is the first safety car we've seen in the Super Series. We've seen them in the Super V8s and we've seen them in the GT3s, and they have, well, certainly on Sunday night, caused a bit of chaos on the restart.
They have. I want to draw your attention to the man sitting in third place, Matt Williams, up 8 positions. He was the largest mover in the first race, and he's the same again here. He just somehow manages to gain those positions either through attrition or through some very, very clean driving. But the last position that he gained was as a result of Jamie Snow going off the road at the very last turn, where we saw that unsafe rejoin as well. So he's going to have snow all over the back of him. We'll probably expect Corey Ott and Brenton Hobson to sort of kick away here after the safety car goes in. But I think all eyes will be on the battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and potentially the guys behind as well, if they can hang with them for what will be, looks like it's going to be a 3-lap sprint to the finish when the safety car, if the safety car comes in this lap.
Yes, we're not seeing any messages on anyone's screen just yet about the safety car coming in, but I expect it should be in this lap. But anyway, Corey Ott, one to watch. Jamie Snow, one to watch on the restart. Corey Ott got a penalty in the previous race, along with myself, which we won't talk too much about, for overtaking before the safety car crossed, before they crossed the start-finish line. But he will know now not to do that. but whether or not he can get a run on Brenton Hobson into the first corner, that will be the juicy, tasty morsel of interest into the next couple of minutes coming up for us.
Well, only 3 laps that are going to be remaining. We think that probably Hobson's going to have the better tyres, with the better tyre management for the last bit of this race. So we kind of expect him to hold station, but anything can happen.
Well,
and
we've seen, even though that he's been sort of managing the gap quite nicely, and Ott's had to use his tyres to get up through the field. We've seen that he has made the odd mistakes, and he's been sliding through the final sector. So it could be all up.
Still on the safety car, unfortunately. I think we might be going another lap. No, the safety car's in. Safety car's in.
We're going to get a restart. So here we are. The flag will go green very soon, and it looks like Brenton Hobson has already bolted, and Ott hasn't really been able to take any sort of advantage. The gap was basically as it was. About a second between. In fact, it's pretty equidistant between all of them. Snow's, if anything, the one who's missed the start. He's dropped off the back of Matt Williams just a little bit. But nonetheless, Ott can see Hobson, and as long as he can see Hobson, there's a chance that he thinks he can win this race. And I bet you he will be thinking of victory and nothing else. And a little bit of a lock-up, just a little bit of a lock-up for Hobson there, and Ott closes up just a tad.
Bit of an angry pack on the restart too. Lewis Wedding down in 8th place, not a position we're expecting him to see, trying to make the most of these last couple of laps. We had Brock Harvey and Baker that was side by side for a little bit as well, as the positions further down the grid try and sort themselves out. We've got sort of 2 or 3 packs at the moment. We've got the lead half a dozen, and then we've got the back half of the field split into 2 other sections as well, as we've only got 2 laps to go now as they come around to finish lap 18.
Well, Ott was Matt Williams was matching Ott just nicely through that final sector until he locked up just a little bit in that final section. And is Ott close enough? Everyone looks like going for the inside. So many people defending. Ott's not going to be close enough. He'd be a very brave man to make a move from that far back. But as long as he can see Harvey, I said it already, he's going to think that there's a chance. And I think that carrot is just going to be very enticing to him.
Ott's hanging with him, so this is not going to be over and done with too. And just noticing I've been watching it all night, the lines that people are taking into turn number 1, they're coming out way wide over the solid white line just to try and get the best angle into that turn number 1. And serving
Hobson's
them,
a little bit
well.
wide at the hairpin there.
Yeah, Ott's got a sniff here.
He's got a sniff. He's like a dog with a bone. I mean, he's young and he's fast, and just he's hungry. That's the thing. He hasn't had a win in the AMS Australia Series yet, and he's well overdue for one. As Hobson, just a little bit on the grass there. Hobson, the wily old fox, he's got the experience. He knows how to win races from this position. He won't be too worried about Ott, but Ott will be absolutely thinking, I can get this. Yeah. I can get this. And behind him, Williams has got an awful lot of cars to defend, and going for the inside, very, very harsh.
He's going to have to stay to the inside here because Jamie's going to try and sweep him
out. Oh, Jamie's lost it. Jamie's lost. He's going to lose 3 or 4 positions out of this. Oh, my goodness. We hope that he can get it by without triggering a safety car. You had to go for it.
Johnny's just gone onto the grass here. Lewis Wedding's rounded up Johnny. So Lewis is back up to 5th. Johnny just got a little bit of a poor exit running over the exit curb on the exit of turn number 1. And Lewis sweeps past him as well. But Jamie Snow, he was a do-or-die move. It was the last lap. He wanted to try and see if he gained the position. Tried to hang on the outside and just carried a bit too much speed, and the back end just came round on him.
Well, I mean, he's down in 12th now.
Hobson's got a little bit wide, but Corey's Ott's all over him, but I don't think he's going to have a dive at the last turn.
Oh, and he's done it. He's gone up the inside into the last corner, and they're going to be a drag race down. Ott's going to have Hobson slot through, but he's so close. He's going to have a go down into turn 1. You'd have to think so.
No, it's a checkered flag.
It's the end of the race. Oh, goodness.
Williams has held on to 3rd place as well. That's an outstanding drive from Matt Williams.
That is an outstanding drive. So, well, Matt Williams has done an extraordinary job there to hold on to 3rd. Will Devonish in 4th place. Lewis Wedding in 5th. But, geez, it all kicked off at the end there, didn't it, Nether?
Well, we expected that it was going to be pretty much a grandstand finish to the end of that race. They only had 3 laps to make it done. to get it all done. And Hobson very nearly threw it away in that last sector. He had Corey Ott all over him for the remaining 3 laps. He had to be on his guard, but he does lead every. Did he lead every lap? I believe he did.
No, he came very close to relinquishing the lead on that final corner, as Matt Williams celebrates with some excellent donuts. But my goodness, that was close. And Hobson, if there was a weakness for him tonight, it was that corner. It nearly cost him in the first race, nearly cost him in the second race, but he was able to hang on, and the gap in the end, just about 0.3 of a second. But a perfect result for Brenton Hobson.
It was. We had seen it in Guyana as well, where he struggled to get off the last turn and down the main straight. So a little bit of an Achilles heel for him, but he managed to get it all together even after Corey Ott had a dive at him at that last turn, and it was clean. There wasn't, might have been a little bit of contact, but it wasn't anything malicious, and it ended up being a grandstand finish, and very, very close again. It was only 0.3 of a second in the end, and a similar result between first and second place in the Pro AB as it was in the second race of the Pro AM.
Yes, well, that was, I mean, after what was looking like it was a race that Hobson had completely under control, once again, AMS Oz delivers the goods and gives us a grandstand finish, because that was just a fantastic finish. If we can look down the field, what are the other stories to tell? Well, we've got Brock Harvey in here. Harvey, you finished 11th. Probably quite a distance off the pace. He ended up getting the position on snow towards the end after his disastrous final lap. But how did that race go for you, Brock?
It was a battle of the teammates in that one. I qualified 6th, and I think Scruff tagged me into turn 1, which spun me around, which dropped me down to 12th, and then I got back up to, I think it was 8th, and then I spun myself, so just battling myself there. And then after restart, I was in 9th, and Jamie was sitting on the edge of the track as I was coming around. I couldn't avoid him, and we hit each other. So the short shift team did quite a good job of ruining our own results tonight, I think, unfortunately.
They were in good positions well, even under the safety car. Snow did very well for a lot of that race, but unfortunately it all fell apart towards the end. Scruff, Matt Williams, up onto a podium position. We saw that you were a big mover in the first race, and again in the second race, making up a lot of positions, and well, congratulations on a podium.
Thank you very much. I've been trying to do this since we had the first round of the Super Series But Brock, we at least got 2 cars on the podium.
Yeah, but we should be locking it out by now. Yeah, nah. All good. After you, Stairs. Sorry, mate.
Well, the race, it seemed like it was, as we've said before, it was Hobson's to lose, but the late safety car giving Corey Ott a chance at victory. Ott, you had to go through. You very nearly pulled it off, but in the end, it was Hobson beating the line by it was 0.3 of a second in the end. So close.
Yeah, it was. I think after that first race, I was waiting to go to safety. Yeah, that first race, I was take the, like, don't try and pull the camera that second race, that last two, like, honestly, if I didn't have, if I had a run at the last I told them,
Well,
There's that expression again.
There's a good chance of that. But yeah, in fact, I got a little bit ahead of myself. I was a little bit behind myself in commentary. I thought there was another lap to go, but in the end, as we crossed the line, I thought we were going to get into turn 1, but for your sake, but grandstand finish for our second race tonight. 2 of the Formula 3 series, and next Thursday Supercars continues in round at Phillip Island for round 4, and the Super Series continues in 2 weeks' time in Winton for their round 6. So we look very much forward to those events coming up very soon indeed. It's been a hell of a night. Thank you very much indeed to drivers for joining us in the commentary box.